Fiancé assaults best friend at bachelor party. Wedding cancelled, friendships shattered, and legal battles looming in shocking turn of events. Original post. I don't know what to do. My, F28 Finance, M28, Alex has a BFF, Danny 28, since they were 4. She's not like the usual Reddit BFF. She's a lovely sweet person who has never crossed boundaries with Alex or their 2 other friends Marcus and Daniel. The 4 are very close. Danny is gay and always was. She is very much a woman but likes to dress in jeans and t-shirts and not in any feminine clothing. She is lean tall, has short hair and is just one of the boys in a lot of ways. This weekend was the Alex bachelor party. All 4 plus 2 other of Alex's friends went along. It was to a coastal town that's well known for hosting bachelor and bachelorette parties, but there's no strip club or anything. They stayed in an Airbnb and scuba diving and kayaking planned. First night I went to an okay dinner restaurant and nightclub and home. Last night was the issue. They went to the nightclub and headed back to the house. Marcus and Daniel, who are both single, brought back 2 girls from the nightclub and got busy in their bedrooms. The rest of the group were drinking in the living room, but things started to get a bit noisy. 2 of the friends began complaining that they never got the chance to go to a strip club and had never seen breasts and buttocks. They started blaming their wives for this and even resorted to calling them offensive names. Danny told them to shush as it was ruining the mood, and they both thought it would be funny if they saw Danny's body naked to make up for it. The thing is, Alex joined in and they stripped her. She was screaming loudly and Marcus and Daniel came running and rescued Danny and put her in a bedroom with the girls and had a fight with the 3 men. Daniel doesn't drink due to a chronic medical condition and the medication he is on. So they packed up and took Danny and the 2 girls and left the other 3. Danny was hysterical and Marcus wanted her to go to the police but she wouldn't. She was afraid to go home, so they ended up dropping the girls off and taking Danny to her parents', which was an hour away. Marcus was at my door at 7 a.m. this morning and he told me what happened, that if he ever sees Alex again he's afraid of how things could go. He told me that if he can convince Danny to press charges he will. Then he left. Alex returned about 3 this afternoon. He was a thing normally until I told him Marcus had visited. He was very nervous and tried to play down what happened as a joke that got out of hand. I'm devastated. I heard him out but he knew I wasn't accepting what he was saying. I told him Danny may be going to the police and he got very panicked and pale. He said she had him blocked and he wanted to go talk to her. I told him she wasn't at her place as she was too afraid he or his buddies would turn up there. I asked him to leave and he didn't want to go but I insisted. He was crying saying it was a prank that got out of hand. I heard him out only as a courtesy to our 2-year relationship, but I'm done. I don't know this man. I don't know if I should reach out to Danny or just do nothing. Marcus and I have been in constant contact and he agrees that I have no option but to end things. I don't know where to start with canceling everything as the wedding was in 5 weeks, but it seems trivial compared to what Danny is going through right now. Marcus is convinced that Danny is going to the police after talking to her parents, so I think Alex is in trouble. I can't support him on this. Maybe I'm wrong as he was drunk and probably had taken other things, but this was his friend from age 4 and he did this to her. I've not blocked Alex but I've not replied or picked up any of his calls. Update. Sorry, I don't know how to do updates, so posting this separately. It's been a terrible day. I can't reach out to my friends yet as I'm ashamed. I did tell my parents and my brother and they have been wonderful. My brother brought his friend with him when he came to stay and today both of them packed up every bit of my ex's stuff and took it to his parents' house. X was there and just asked if that meant I was finished with him and my brother said yes, and did he really expect any other reaction? His father intervened and told him not to say anything more. He told my brother to tell me to contact him about canceling the wedding. I'm not contacting his father ever. My parents are handling the cancellation of the wedding and my father got in contact with my cousin who is a lawyer and he is going to help and advise me as needed. I've to disentangle myself from X on leases, bank account savings and such, although my brother made me transfer all of my money from joint account savings and daily accounts to my own account. It's a mess. I tried to ring Danny but she isn't up for speaking to anyone, so I just texted her that I was there for her and that I had broken up with Alex. She hasn't replied and I don't expect she will. She's in a bad way apparently. Daniel spent 3 hours with me today. There's a lot going on but I'm afraid to say too much for fear of damaging any court case. Just to say, there are 2 videos of the incident. One by Jeb, one of the 2 friends. A lot of it is chaotic but the last part is clear and telling apparently. The owners of the rental house apparently have gotten involved and have footage but I can't say more. When Marcus left me he went to both those guys' wives and told them what happened. Jeb's wife has been very helpful, apparently, and she has split from him. The other guy's wife too has left him. Things are going how most of you want them to go, that's all I will say. Well, I will add it was worse than what Marcus shared. Daniel told me that before Danny found her style she had long hair and dressed feminine and was stunningly beautiful, and all three of them were in love with her as teens. Alex took her rejection very personally apparently, and Daniel says he was angry and bitter for a couple of years but hid it from her. They thought he had gotten over it, but Daniel feels this smacks of revenge against her. Scary if this is true. I have and continue to receive hundreds of texts from Alex. He told me his father told him to stop texting me, but he can't. I haven't replied or blocked based on your advice. This is very hard and I don't know what way all this is going to end up. Sorry about any mistakes and typos, I'm not doing well. If there's more I will post again if I'm able. Update 2. Hi, all my last update is removed, but if anyone is interested I thought I'd post the latest and get some advice. I got a call from Danny. Daniel has been ever present and I'm guessing it was because he knew she was going to call. There's a lot more to the story. The first night was normal as I said, but on Saturday Alex, Jeb and their friend decided not to go scuba diving with Danny, Daniel and Marcus. Danny was feeling very hungover, so after an hour she gave up and went back to the Airbnb. She walked into the living room to find all three guys engaging in sexual acts with two women. Jeb shouted at her to get out as this was costing them a fortune. The women were escorts. She left and went back to the boat and only told Marcus what she saw. When they all went back later, Alex told her to not tell me as it was just his last bit of freedom. She told him she was disgusted with him and that he wasn't free. She told him she would have to think about what to do. Marcus convinced her to stay another night as he and Daniel had met the two girls the night before and were seeing them again that night, and if Danny wanted to leave then Daniel would have to take her as he was her ride and there wasn't public transport in the tiny town. So Alex cheated as did the other two. Marcus told their wives that morning but not me. He was going to do it in stages as he knew I was in shock. The actual assault went further than Marcus told me also. And while Alex hadn't actually done anything beyond pulling off her clothes, unlike the other two, he stood by and watched and did nothing to help her. She said she thought he had taken shrooms earlier but couldn't be sure. Marcus and Daniel did rescue her but things had already escalated. She went to the police immediately and she got to her parents. The Airbnb owners had also gone independently when they saw the footage. All three men are facing the consequences of their actions. Danny told me she was sorry she didn't leave and told me immediately like she wanted to do. She is very distraught and I didn't want to make things worse for her. I don't think I'm needed for any legal proceedings, so I finally blocked Alex and his parents. The wedding is cancelled. And I'm just starting to disentangle myself from Alex on bank accounts and such. Here's my issue. I'm feeling very angry towards Marcus. It feels like he didn't really care about me. He stopped Danny from telling me so he could continue to shack up with the girl he met. He apparently feels guilty because if they had left Danny would not have been attacked. He didn't do me the courtesy of telling me that Alex cheated that morning like he did with the other two wives. It's not like he was sparing my feelings because my ex assaulting another woman was a pretty damn bad thing to hear. He didn't tell me the full extent of the attack. Danny is still unsure if Alex wasn't just waiting his turn, or if all he was going to do was watch. I should have been told that ASAP. And not from Danny because the conversation was incredibly difficult for her. Daniel didn't know about the escorts at all and didn't know Marcus hadn't shared the full story of what they saw when they burst in. Daniel has been my rock. I need some perspective here. Is it okay to be angry at Marcus? Is it misplaced anger? I'm pretty angry at Alex though, and that's all I feel towards him. Can anyone give me a different perspective I'm missing? Marcus and I had been in constant contact. He's already back at work, so it was messages/texts and occasional calls. He actually visited last night but I didn't open the door to him. Daniel is saying whatever I feel right now is okay, but I think he's just placating me. I don't know who to trust anymore. I don't have to have any more contact with Alex and think the case will move along without me. I'm thinking of telling Daniel that I need a break from him and Marcus and that group of friends. Danny and I have said we will stay in touch, but I can't see us being very close. My best friend who I finally confided in thinks I should just step away from them all now for good and try to move forward. My parents agree and think it's necessary for healing. My brother thinks Daniel has been nothing but great and I shouldn't cut him off. But they all seem to be a package deal, but without Alex now obviously. So I think it's probably all or nothing. What should I do? I don't want to be ungrateful, but a clean break feels right. Update 3. I've been putting off writing this update, but I'm back because I need even more advice and an outside perspective. The comments have been pretty helpful so far. Thank you. It's long, but I'll do my best to shorten it. Trigger warnings for SA drugs violence. First of all, Danny and I have bonded. She and I talk every day and message constantly. I didn't expect that, but it's truly wonderful. She says she needs a good straight friend right now, JK, and honestly she is a great person and has been a huge support to me despite what she has been going through. I told her I posted here as I felt guilty as to tell my story I had to tell hers. She was okay with it. She is thinking of waiving her right to anonymity when the trial comes as she wants everyone to know she was raped and by who. Dani has quit her job, moved to her parents full-time and is in therapy. She's just about okay, surviving still rather than living, but she is so strong and amazing. Justice moves slowly here, so there isn't too much of an update on the legal process. Marcus was told, however, he would not face charges for assault for attacking the two actively attacking Dani. I went back to work and it was awful. I work for a tiny startup. Oscar, who works there, is friendly with Marcus and my brother. We are all into martial arts and attend the same dojo. So I'm getting a lot of pity. I'd have been okay with sympathy or empathy, but being pitied sucks. Still, it's better than being home all day doing nothing. Daniel gave me space as I asked, and he is truly a good guy. There's nothing romantic there at all though. I'm not in a fit state for anything like that and won't be for a very, very long time, and he is just a good guy. No ulterior motives. We text a bit and he is in a lot of contact with Dani. I got a letter in the mail from Alex. Said he held out hope while I hadn't blocked him, but once I did he was distraught. He told me he doesn't want to freak me out by turning up in person, and I know that wouldn't look good for him anyway, but he just wanted to tell his side of the story. He said he was pressured into doing stuff with the escorts and he only got a BJ. The other two were really pressuring him to do more, but he didn't and says he regrets even doing that. He admits he was angry at Dani because she told him he either told me about the cheating or she would, but he knew he was totally in the wrong. He knew I would dump him for cheating, so he took everything he could get his hands on. He's not even sure what he took, and while he remembers pulling off Dani's shoes he doesn't remember anything else. So he was just peer pressured and drunk and drugged up, and he did nothing wrong at all basically. I was just disgusted to read this. His total lack of accountability is just sickening. I'm not responding to him ever. Any future mail goes unopened into the trash. I'm in therapy, but it's early days and I'm not seeing progress yet. That leaves me with Marcus. He knows I've been angry with him and he is desperate to talk it out. I probably feel too much anger towards him but find it hard not to. He is still feeling very guilty over making Dani stay. I don't understand why I feel so angry towards him. It's not on the level of anger I feel towards Alex by any means, but I'm still hesitant to talk to him. I think he made mistakes, but in my heart I know he was dealing with a lot that morning, but I just wouldn't have been there when Alex got home if I had known the truth. I feel Marcus should have told me everything, as I was the one who had to face Alex alone. I know I should hear him out, but I'm finding it very hard. How can I get past this? I want to clear the air with him even if we are never friends, and me cutting him out is really having a terrible effect on him. I know he rescued Dani and has been constantly checking up on her. I know he can be a good guy, but part of me feels he wasn't all good that weekend. I don't know. I haven't touched this in therapy as we are just starting and are talking about Alex. I need advice on how to deal with this. I wanted to give it some time, but Marcus' mental health is pretty poor, and maybe by not meeting him I'm just making him worse. How can I find it in me to just bite the bullet and hear him out? Why am I so angry with him? How can I move past this? I don't want to be angry at him. I'm so exhausted from being angry at him and at Alex, and I want it to stop, at least towards Marcus. But it won't. Help! I'm visiting Dani for the weekend that should have been my wedding. We are going to have a low TR's marathon and her mother is making a cheesecake. My own family has been wonderful in every way, but Dani is truly why I'm still standing. Edit. Forgot to say it wasn't an Airbnb. It was just a privately rented house. I just assumed incorrectly it was. Am I the asshole for refusing to spend Halloween with my family after they ruined it for me years ago and now blame me for their DUI? Original post. As the title says, this happened on Halloween. I'm 25M and 5 years ago my parents wanted to go to my sister's house for Halloween. At the time I was still living with them, and I wanted to go to a party a friend was hosting. But my parents were adamant that I go with them instead because they wanted us all to be together. I still wanted to go to my friend's party, and my parents suggested a compromise in which I go to my sister's party first. Then my friends. I figured it couldn't hurt to do both, so I agreed since I liked helping my nephews with trick-or-treating. And that year I was wearing an inflatable ninja costume I was really eager to have fun in. Well, I was ready and waiting in the costume for hours. And by the time we finally took the kids out, most houses stopped giving candy and there was hardly anybody walking around. And we only went around the block, that's it. Then when I wanted to go to my friend's house, my parents guilted me into staying because they needed me as a designated driver. I would have driven them home first and then gone to my friend's party. But my parents just kept drinking and refused to leave. So I lost out on going to the other party and cussed my parents out for making me miss it and not even being able to enjoy my Halloween. They just said that it was too late, and what could they do about it? They didn't even attempt to make it up to me. I refused to speak with them later. So they confronted me and I said I didn't even want to look at them because they broke their promise. Then I said that unless they could somehow pull a new Halloween party with all my friends out of their asses, then they had completely screwed me over. Then I left before they could say anything else to me. My friends were nearly as upset as I was, but my sister told me off and said I was callous because she had wanted me there. Ever since that year I only spent Halloween with friends. This year my parents begged me to go with them to my sister's instead. I asked why and they wanted me to drive them. So I refused and said they just wanted a designated driver. And they'd already screwed me over before and didn't even attempt to make it better back then. And I didn't want to just sit around watching them get drunk with the only real highlight being helping kids trick or treat. I hung out with my friends and we had a blast with a farmyard party, but my sister called me up on Monday furious at me because our parents were pulled over on their way home and got a DUI, and that this would have never happened if I had driven them. And now most of the family is pissed at me. So AITA for refusing to drive my parents to my sister's house for Halloween because of something they did 5 years ago. Relevant comments. Comment 1. While you're 100% NTA for anything your parents did, you are weirdly bitter about a party you missed as a 19-year-old dude. You were an adult, you chose to stay. Nothing was stopping you from leaving. You need to recognize that you are responsible for your own choices, something your family doesn't seem to be good at. OOP. No, I was stopped from leaving because I couldn't take my parents' vehicle. We rode together and they refused to let me just borrow their car and come back. The bitterness is because they lied to me and then showed no remorse that they did. Comment 2. This is weird. Have they just done it on these 2 Halloween parties? Or do they do this at other times? Why didn't your sister drive them? Or sister's partner if they're in the picture? If she has kids there surely has to be a sober adult there. Obviously it's not your fault your parents drove drunk. NTA OOP. They've driven drunk several times. I didn't mind driving them to some places. But then they wanted me as a designated driver all the time. And they only wanted me to drive their car, not mine. So I made it clear to them that I wouldn't be their driver if I had plans. Which I did. Update. My sister and her husband spotted my post a few days after I made it and called me. My sister said she's ashamed of herself and now sees my point of view. At first she was furious I made the post, but her husband chewed her out for not ever sticking up for me because he really had no idea my parents treated me this badly. And after they both read the comments she realized how toxic this whole dynamic was. At first she blamed it on the stress of being a mother. But quickly took that back and said she really has no excuse for never considering me in these situations. We talked and she remarked how I've always loved Halloween ever since I was a little kid. And she let my parents ruin it for me that day 5 years ago, even though she knew about the promise they broke. The conversation got pretty emotional and she apologized heavily because she had put the blame on me when she was the one who let our parents drink and drive year after year. I've got more details now. And my mother is actually the one who got the DUI. I'd assumed our father. But he apparently was so wasted that he was on the verge of passing out, and pretty much did as soon as he was in the car. Our mother insisted that she was okay to drive and then ran a red light. That's how a cop spotted her and she was arrested. The car was impounded and our father was escorted home by police to sleep it off. He woke up with a raging hangover and a temper to match. Then took it all out on my sister over the phone, and she in turn took it out on me. Our mother has had her license suspended, the car cost them $600 to get out of impound, and both of my parents were putting this on me. Until we all ganged up on them for what they've been doing. Our father fought us every step of the way. But we made it clear they've been putting their alcoholism above everything else and we're tired of it because there have been a lot of broken promises from them all around. Our mother promised to do better, but our father just stayed silent and wouldn't make eye contact with any of us. Things are tense now. But I'm glad my sister is finally on my side in all of this. My friends are chipping in $8 each for my wedding gift after I spent thousands on theirs. Am I the asshole for implying they're being cheap? Original post, throwaway because I know my friends use Reddit. I, 38F, am marrying my fiancé, 38M next year. I'm the last of my friends to get married and honestly, I'd made my peace with being single and getting a dog before I met my fiancé. I am part of a group of 6 girlfriends who have all known each other since college. We've been through everything together, breakups, holidays, weddings, babies, promotions. When I told them I got engaged, they seemed happy and sent me congratulatory messages, but when everyone else got engaged, they threw parties or went out for dinner to celebrate. They didn't in my case. I gave them nearly a year's notice on my bachelorette party, which I'm keeping low-key as I don't want a big thing. We're going for dinner and drinks at one of my favorite restaurants in our city. However, slowly, all of my friends have been dropping out, saying they can't get a babysitter or they have to work late or they're on a work trip. I've obviously invited them all to the wedding as well, which again is a small affair, and one has already messaged the group chat saying she's not sure she can get a babysitter for that day. My wedding is months away and I'm finding it really hard to believe that she knows that far in advance. 2 others have also said they're not going to stay for the reception as they will be tired by then. Here's where I may be the asshole. The straw that broke the camel's back was when I sent the link to the registry. My fiancé and I already have a house together, so we're asking for mostly small things, nothing goes beyond $50, and we're delighted with anything that anyone chooses to buy us. They sent a message into the chat saying they were going to band together to get me an air fryer as a group gift. It costs $40, so I was a bit surprised that they seemed to be chipping in about $8 each. Over the years, I must have spent thousands of dollars on their weddings, 2 of which were overseas. I have attended dinners and brunches to celebrate their job promotions and bought gifts for their babies, all the while feeling terrible about myself watching my friends celebrate the happiness I never thought I'd get. I sent a message just asking for clarification if it was all of them buying it together, and one replied asking if I was calling them cheap, and then there has been dead silence since. That really wasn't my intention, but it really feels like because I'm last, they're just over having to do these events, and it's really feeding into my insecurity at getting married so late. But they do have legitimate reasons for these things. They all have lives and kids and maybe not as much money as when we were a bit younger, and maybe I'm just letting my insecurities get in the way. So Reddit, AITA. Relevant comments. Comment 1, NTA, these people aren't your friends. Find a new friend group. Oh, and they are cheap. Comment 2, yeah. These people do not like op. She is not picking up on it for some reason. Famous Ohio Applehorn OP seems to be what I call the leftover friend. Basically that one awkward person that has been in your group forever, but isn't really anybody's friend. Aside from maybe the one girl who brought her into the group in the first place. Weddings, baby showers and birthdays are the perfect time for everyone else to be like, Jerry Seinfeld with hands up. I don't want to be around her. I'm 40 years old. Can I just not go to her party? Comment 3, I was willing to consider for a bit that maybe having kids made things different now from when they were all getting married. But buying an air fryer as a group gift, that's cheap. NTA. Comment 4, the worst part is actually the cheapness. If you're asking for all this understanding and compromise from one friend when being singled out and given zero effort, the least thing anyone can do to make up for that is get the most awesome gift as a, sorry I didn't make the effort to come, here's something to make up for it a bit. What they've shown now is that they don't want to make an effort on her at all, and also, they don't want to spend money on her at all. I'd send this post to the group chat and then say my goodbyes, including, don't bother with the air fryer. I've had more hot air by now than I can handle in a lifetime. Comment 5. Your friends are not really friends in the definition. They are acquaintances. This happens quite often. People have lives and they may still remain in contact with you, but you're not their go-to. You're very generous and they have benefited from that. It reminds me of Sex and the City Season 6 Episode 9, A Woman's Right to Shoes. Update. Hi everyone. I didn't think I would have an update to give, but I wanted to repay everyone's kindness. Some people said some really lovely and helpful things. First off, I wanted to clarify a few questions that were asked. I didn't care at all what they bought us as a gift. I didn't care if they got us a gift at all. It was never about the air fryer. I really wasn't calling them cheap. I was just clarifying if it was coming from all of them. I also didn't ask if they were getting us a gift. They brought this up themselves. I couldn't put my finger on why it made me feel a bit weird. I think the word I was searching for was disrespect. Someone said an $8 gift is worse than no gift, and I think that's the heart of it. The money issue came up as well. As far as I know, all of my friends are fairly solvent. We all work in the finance field, mostly as accountants. 3 are very senior in their firms and all of their husbands have good jobs. But we never discuss money, and I know kids and the cost of living is high at the moment, so I'd never want to assume anyone's financial status, but everyone seems okay. The other issue was a lot of people asked how often we see each other, and the answer is quite regularly. We made a pact years ago to meet up at least once a month no matter how crazy life gets, and we've mostly been able to stick to that. The 6 of us usually meet for Sunday brunch. Apart from that, I live in the same neighborhood as the 2 of them, so we do dinner occasionally and parties for their kids etc. are a must. The last question was that my wedding isn't child-free and is in our city. I love kids and my friends' kids are surrogate nieces and nephews to me and they are all invited. The friend who said she couldn't find childcare said she didn't want to bring her kids because she said weddings are easier without them. Lastly, some suggested they don't like my fiancé. They've never given me that impression. Everyone seems to get on well enough. They've known him for 2 years and he occasionally goes golfing with some of their husbands. Now on to the update. Reading the comments was like having cold water thrown over me. I've never considered myself the outsider friend, but a lot of people suggested that I was and it really threw me and I got really overwhelmed. I didn't send any message to the group chat, even though lots of commenters gave me really good suggestions about what to write, and I withdrew into myself until my fiancé prized it out of me for what was wrong. I showed him this post and he got super quiet and really angry. I've never seen him this angry over anything ever. He asked if I had spoken to them about this and I said no. He started to call them individually and read them the riot act. He called them $8 assholes and said he would be sending them an itemized list of the thousands of dollars I'd spent on them over the years. He called bullshit on the one who said she couldn't get a babysitter and she indeed said she was sick of having to go to the same boring wedding over and over and yours won't be any different, and he lost it at her. I hate the idea of him fighting my battles for me, so I asked him to stop after the third person. I sent a message into the group chat asking if we could all speak as a group and the 3 he called sent voice messages saying that my fiancé was a psycho and that they wouldn't speak to me anymore. I just felt really tired and defeated so I sent a message saying that if they didn't want to be friends anymore that was fine and to consider their invitations withdrawn to the bachelorette and wedding. No one has replied, so I guess we're done. I suppose I'm better off, but I don't feel that way. I just feel numb and sad. They've been such a big part of my life for so long and I really feel the loss and I'm so sad I won't see their kids anymore. Some of them refer to me as auntie and it's making me cry that I won't see them grow up. My fiancé has apologized for rushing in and for not asking me how I wanted to handle it, and I've accepted. We're good and I'm looking forward to our life together. I mostly wanted to say thank you to the kind Redditors that showed me the light about this and offered congratulations on our wedding and even offered to buy us a gift. I've never watched Sex and the City, but I'll watch the episode some people mentioned. It seems like I'll relate. I'll delete this post soon, I just want to put this behind me now. After hearing my girlfriend talk about infidelity, I left without saying anything. She is looking for me, but I blocked her everywhere. My girlfriend, who is 36 years old and with whom I have been in a relationship for 5 years, has cheated on me without my knowledge. I am a 38-year-old man who just recently discovered this information. I discovered it in the most unfortunate way imaginable. Let me begin by providing some background information about myself. I have never been married and I do not have any children. It's not that I don't want it either. I guess life just hasn't presented me with those opportunities yet. Okay, let's get to the story. The men and I were going to take a weekend trip to one of my friend's cabins on the lake, so I left work on Friday after work to go on the trip. There is nothing overly insane about it. Fishing, drinking games, and just plain old fun. The majority of the time, we take these excursions approximately once every 3 months in order to offer our significant others a break from us and to allow ourselves some time to ourselves. In a typical scenario, I remain for the entirety of the weekend and then depart from there in order to report to work on Monday morning. My laptop, on the other hand, was left in the office room during the weekend, and I failed to remember to retrieve it. I started making my way home at approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon, with the expectation that I would arrive there by 6 o'clock. Since I was under the impression that Rachel, we'll refer to her as Rachel, wouldn't have eaten by that point, I placed a phone order at our go-to Italian restaurant, waited for it to be delivered, and then went back to the house. As soon as I went in, everything appeared to be in order. Rachel was laughing in the kitchen and I could hear her laughing, so I decided to simply walk in and surprise her on the spot. I was getting closer, and as I did, I began to overhear the conversation that she was having on the phone. In a moment, my world was completely turned upside down. I had the impression that she was speaking to her sister or possibly one of her friends, but the conversation was rather straightforward and proceeded as follows. It was an incredible evening last night. What a thoughtful and considerate lover he was. Take a break. I'm telling you, I've never had anything like it. Take a break. After meeting on Tinder, he took me out for dinner the other night. We were so close to making it to the sofa that we barely made it by the time we made it through the door. Take a break. Oh God, big, like twice as big as insert my name. Take a break. I'll definitely be taking him for a test drive again. Following the completion of that line, I simply threw the meal on the ground. It was Rachel who turned around after hearing it. I was already experiencing tears welling up in my eyes by that point in time. I simply pushed her off, went up to the office, got my laptop and then left. She hung up the phone and attempted to get in touch with me, but I was no longer available. I have not returned a single call from Rachel for the past 4 days, despite the fact that she has been texting and calling me in an extremely frantic manner. Because I am sleeping at a motel located a couple of towns away, it is quite unlikely that she will be able to locate me. Rachel has been frantically attempting to find me, and that has caused my friends and my mother to phone me. However, I have reassured everyone that I am well and that there is no reason for them to be concerned about me. The idiotic phone call that I received has completely destroyed my life. I was under the impression that this lovely young lady was the one with whom I would spend the rest of my life. I am an only child, but my mother is always reminding me that she would want to have grandchildren. Due to the fact that this year would be our 6th wedding anniversary, I had intended to make my proposal on July 4th of this year. I already have the ring, and my friend and his wife are already aware of the idea because they were the ones who organized and hosted the 4th of July cookouts. I would like to thank them for their assistance. In this regard, I would be grateful for any advice you might provide. It is the first time that I have ever dealt with infidelity in any relationship, and at this point I am completely and utterly emotionally destroyed. Could I get in touch with Rachel? Is it advisable for me to listen to her after that phone call? When I think of her, I can't help but feel queasy in my stomach. I want to express my gratitude in advance to anyone who contacts me with comments. Update 1. Good morning everyone. To begin, I would want to express my gratitude to everyone for their sincere comments. I have had a very stressful week, and although I did not feel like responding to anyone's posts, I want you all to know that I did read them, and your words helped me get through the week. I am looking forward to hearing from you all. This has been a terrible experience for me, and the fact that each and every one of you reached out to me through chat or left a comment has made my day a little bit brighter. With that being said, the most current update is presented below. In the evening of the previous Friday, after my friends had arrived at the hotel, I shared with them what I had listened to on the phone call. They were, to put it mildly, all 3 of them in a state of shock. They inquired as to whether or not I had observed any indications of this, and to tell you the truth, I had not. The answer I gave them was that I had no idea what I was going to do. I let my one friend know that the proposal was not going to go through, and he perfectly understood the situation given the existing circumstances. It was one of the things that I instructed my friends to do before they left their homes, and that was to turn off tracking in the event that their significant partners were checking on them and returning to Rachel. While I am aware that Rachel has a close relationship with one of the wives, I did not want to take any chances at this point in time. That evening, we spent the evening at the hotel bar, and I took a lot of shots, shot after shot, shot after shot. I was quite exhausted. It was no nice sight. From the beginning of the night to the end of the night, my friends' significant others were calling them and wondering where they were. It is to their credit that they did not back down and supported me by simply stating that we were safe and that there was no need to be concerned. After presuming where they were, one of them approached me with a request to speak with me, but I declined to engage in conversation with her. Rachel was concerned, and all she wanted was for me to return home. She insisted over and over again. Just now, I told my friend to take care of it, and I promised that I would fill them in at a later time. As well as a handful of girls who were traveling for work, I spent the most of the night hitting on the bartender, which is something I am not proud of my behavior toward. I thanked each of them for spending time with me the following day, and then they left to go back to their own homes. Because he gets to work after Rachel and I would have already left for the day, I asked one of my friends to have a look at the house that we were renting this week. He was on his way to work, and she and I would have already left for the day. The previous 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, were off for Rachel, but she returned to work on Wednesday. I hurried to the house as soon as he disclosed this information to me, and I immediately began packing as many of my belongings as I could. Dishes were piled up in the sink, clothes were strewn about the house, and the garbage can was stuffed with food that had been ordered and taken out. Getting all of my belongings out of the house took me approximately 3.5 hours. Just as a parting gesture, I cleaned up for Rachel before I left. After Rachel became aware that I had returned home and retrieved all of my possessions, she began to bombard me with phone calls and text messages throughout the afternoon and evening of that day. For the time being, I am residing at my mother's house until I am able to get a place of my own sometime in the fall. After speaking with the landlord, I learned that he will not be able to remove me from the lease unless Rachel's signature is provided. This means that I will be responsible for paying my share until October. Until then, my mother has indicated that I am welcome to stay with her. After that, I will make an effort to locate a new residence. As far as I'm aware, a 38-year-old man moving back home with his mother is an incredible experience that life has handed me. Thursday was the day that I finally got in touch with Rachel, and I informed her that we could get together at a neighborhood bar and grill downtown on Friday evening. I assured her that one of my close friends would be present to keep an eye on everything and make sure that everything was in order. She moaned for a few minutes, stating that she wanted me to come home and talk to her so that we could move on from this situation. However, I told her that if she wanted to see me, this was going to be the way that it was going to end up. In the end, she gave her consent. By the time my friend and I arrived at the location on Friday evening, Rachel had already arrived for almost 1 hour. To calm myself down, I had already consumed some food and had also taken a couple of shots of Ciroc. As we sat down, she expressed an interest in engaging in idle chatter, inquiring about me and blah blah blah. I removed that piece of junk. I indicated to her that I had a list of inquiries. Almost instantly, her eyes began to flood up. My question to her was, "How long has this been going on?" "This is the first and only time," she pledged to herself. I told her to stop talking like that. Since I stated that there was no possibility of us ever getting back together, I would appreciate it if you could simply give me the truth so that I can put this matter to rest and move on with my life. She remained steadfast in her account for a few minutes, but then, as the majority of you had anticipated, she admitted the truth. For the past 2 years, whenever I went on such vacations, she was under the impression that I was going to cheat on her. So she was also having a good time. I was fired up by this. I informed her that she was merely using this as a fucking excuse to sleep around with other people. After that, I inquired about the person she was speaking with on the phone, but she declined to provide me with an answer. Asked if they used condoms, she responded that they did so occasionally. Because I am clean, she does not need to worry about obtaining an STD test unless her most recent fling did not use one. I told her that she is fortunate that I took an STD test because I am still clean. In the end, before I departed, I informed her about my intentions for the proposal that would take place on July 4th. I showed her the ring and informed her that I was going to propose to her at the party hosting our mutual friend because that was the event where they had introduced us to one another. Approximately at this time, she suddenly began crying for no apparent reason. She pleaded for just one more opportunity. I informed her that I will love her at all times, but that our relationship is finished. Even though she has been messaging me throughout the day, I am going to block her from this platform very soon. At this very moment I am only sitting here, consuming some Buffalo Wild Wings and sipping beer while watching the fights. I have my doubts, but I'm hoping that Poirier comes out on top. It's a train wreck that is my life. In any case, I want to thank you all for listening. It is highly unlikely that I will ever have another conversation with that expletive, thus I am not sure if I will update again. Comments. C. Falcon, 663. I knew she'd say it was just once. They usually do this, dummies. Also, the statement, every time I went on those excursions for the past 2 years, she assumed I was going to cheat on her, so she was having fun too. Blame shifting is a common cheater technique. It is your fault, OP. I do not think so. I am sorry your landlord did not allow you out of your lease, but at least you have your mother. It isn't ideal, but it is only temporary. It was entirely her loss. Unfortunately, she was going to marry someone. A nice man had chosen and desired her, and she had thrown it all away for pleasure. It's time to focus on yourself and your healing. Take it easy on the drinks, be careful. You are going to be fine. Fly Gusk. OP, I'm pleased you're clean, but it's unfortunate that she was such a POS and used that as an excuse to believe you were going to cheat on her during those travels. It's also unfortunate that she didn't want to identify who she was speaking with, but I'm guessing it was someone in your tight circle of friends, probably one of your mate's spouses. She probably didn't want to be identified because it could get her in trouble. You may wish to warn your friends about these possibilities. Now, in terms of her reaction and actions at the meal, she exhibited no remorse and even attempted to trickle the truth to you. If she was truly sorry for what she had done, she would have broken down before the ring reveal. She only seemed to realize her mistake when you showed her the ring and discussed the proposal. It's time to leave the alcohol behind and begin your healing path. I hope everything goes well, and if you find out who was on the other end of that call, please keep us updated. Update 2. Dear fellow Redditors, how are you doing? I would want to express my gratitude to each of you for the kind remarks. They have meant a great deal to me. During the past day, a few events have transpired, and I thought it would be best to fill you in on them. In spite of the fact that it is not particularly exciting, here it is. I am free and clear, and there is no need for me to worry about any confrontation with Rachel because she is no longer invited to the cookout that will be held on the 4th of July occasion. While I was at the bar, one of the spouses was attempting to strike up a conversation with me, as you may recall from my previous story. In the 4th of July barbecue, She is the wife who is in charge of hosting. It would appear that Rachel had explained to her that she had only cheated on her partner once, and that it was a grave error on her part. This is the reason why she was attempting to convince me to share my thoughts with her. On Tuesday, I had a conversation with her, and during that conversation, I told her the complete truth. Almost immediately, she called Rachel, who informed me that my account of the events was accurate and was furious. As she began to rage at her, she informed her that it would be better if she did not show up to the event that was going to take place on the 4th of July because I was going to be there, and to tell you the truth, what she did to me was horrible and revolting. After that, she requested me to pardon her and stated that she was unaware of the situation. My explanation was that it was not her fault, and that she had no grounds for requesting forgiveness for what she had done. A person who was important to both of us was the one who deceived us. When it comes to the question of who was on the phone with her, I can only speculate that it was her sister. The two wives who are friends with her have maintained their steadfastness and insisted that they were unaware that Rachel was engaging in this behavior. It would appear that on Saturday evenings, when we were away, they would have a girls' night in my place until approximately 11 o'clock at night, during which time they would drink wine and speak about things that are typical of girls. A confirmation of this was provided by the individual who is not even close friends with her but participated in these activities. Another factor that leads me to believe that it was her sister is the fact that I have tried to get in touch with her 3 times already, but I have not received any response from her by way of a text message, a phone call, or anything else. My mother has contacted me and expressed her disappointment in the split. She also inquired as to whether there is anything they can do to convince me to change my decision, but I have informed her that this is not going to happen. As a result of the fact that I returned to work on Monday after taking the previous week off, I am now back to my regular schedule. Going forward, I will not consume any more alcohol. My liver will be grateful to me for that. This community has been of great assistance to me, and I would like to express my gratitude to each and every one of you for everything that you have done. Considering that it appears that this is the conclusion of the matter, I am unsure whether or not I will update this account again. It is important to note that Rachel has been blocked on all platforms, which means that she is currently unable to communicate with me. The person who was hosting the cookout informed me that she is not feeling well at the moment, and she did so before I explained what had actually occurred. The fact of the matter is, however, that I am not doing very well either, but I am moving on and putting all of this behind me. Once again, many thanks to the community. You guys are incredible. My wife cheated while I grieved my brother's death, blamed me. Then years later, at a wedding, she tried to reconcile, but my new life shocked her. I, 32M, had been with my wife, Teresa, 30F, for 8 years and married for 4. We met at a party hosted by a mutual friend during our sophomore year in college. I was immediately taken to her confident personality and sharp wit. Teresa was studying business, while I was studying engineering. We bonded over our mutual enjoyment of outdoor activities and sampling new foods. Our first date was a disaster. I lost my money and spilled wine on her dress, but Teresa shrugged it off, and we wound up spending hours roaming around campus and talking. I realized she was exceptional right away. Teresa's drive and ambition struck me as our relationship progressed. She hailed from a working-class family and was driven to pursue a good career. I loved how she managed her academics, a part-time job, and internships. Teresa pushed me out of my comfort zone by encouraging me to apply for competitive internships and leadership positions in student organizations. After graduation, we both found nice employment in the city, Teresa with a lighting company, and I at an engineering firm. We moved in together after a year and got engaged soon after. Our wedding was a modest, intimate gathering of close friends and family. Teresa was lovely in her plain white outfit, and I recall feeling like the luckiest man alive. Our first couple years of marriage were great. We both advanced in our careers, which enabled us to travel and enjoy life in the city. We had a wonderful group of friends and frequently hosted dinner parties or game nights at our home. Teresa and I spoke effectively and rarely fought. When we disagreed, we always tried to listen to each other and find a solution. Teresa's independence was one of my favorite aspects of her personality. We both cherished our personal time and hobbies. Teresa enjoyed yoga and painting, while I enjoyed basketball and tinkering with vintage cars. We supported each other's interests and struck a healthy balance between couple and individual activities. Everything changed when Mason, my older brother, was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. Mason and I had always been quite close. He was not only my brother, he was also my best friend, confidant, and role model. Mason was always there for me growing up. He taught me how to ride a bike, assisted me with my homework, and offered advice on everything from school to relationships. When our parents divorced during my adolescence, Mason became my rock. He was attending college at the time, but he called me every day to check in. He even came home on weekends to see whether I was all right. Mason was the one who encouraged me to apply to college and assisted me with moving into my dorm. At my wedding, his best man speech moved everyone to tears. Happy tears, naturally. Mason's diagnosis hit me like a truck. He had always been the picture of health. He ran marathons, ate properly, and never smoked. It appeared so unjust. I recall sitting in the doctor's office with him and his wife Sarah, feeling as if the world was collapsing on us. Since then, I've spent as much time as possible with Mason. I drove him to his chemotherapy appointments, stayed with him in the hospital, and attempted to lift his spirits. Teresa was initially helpful, accompanying me on visits to Mason and assisting Sarah with food and chores. But as the weeks grew into months, Teresa began to protest. She claimed I was spending too much time with Mason and neglected our relationship. I tried to explain how vital it was for me to be there for my brother, but Teresa appeared to resent the time I was away from her. We began bickering more frequently, generally over my schedule or her feeling neglected. I tried to balance time with Mason and Teresa, but it was really difficult. Mason's condition was fast deteriorating, and I wanted to be as present for him as possible. At the same time, I felt awful about not giving Teresa the attention she craved. It was a no-win scenario. Despite rigorous therapy, Mason died 8 months after being diagnosed. I was absolutely devastated. Mason had been such a constant in my life that I couldn't imagine the world without him. The loss devastated me, and I sank into a profound despair. I took a leave of absence from work and spent the majority of my time at home. Some days, I could hardly get out of bed. Everything reminded me of Mason, TV shows we used to watch together, private jokes we shared, and even particular foods he enjoyed. The grief was intense. Teresa attempted to be helpful at first, but her patience ran out quickly. She kept trying to persuade me to get over it and resume our normal social life. She planned events and invited friends over, but I couldn't bring myself to socialize. Teresa seemed to take it personally and accused me of pushing her away. This carried on for around 3 months. I knew Teresa was having a difficult time, but I was doing my best to cope with this enormous loss. I was attending a bereavement counselor and attempting to process my emotions, but healing takes time. Teresa grew increasingly distant and unpleasant. Then one day, I received a call from Liam, Mason's best buddy since boyhood. Liam had been like another brother to me growing up, and he'd been a huge help after Mason's death. However, this call was different. Liam's voice was uncertain when he informed me he saw Teresa at a motel with another man. I did not want to believe it at first. I absolutely believed Teresa and couldn't picture her cheating, but Liam emailed me a photo he had taken, and there was no disputing it. Teresa was in a passionate embrace with a man I didn't recognize, and they were going to enter a hotel room. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. How could Teresa do this to me, especially because I was grieving for my brother? I sat in stunned silence for hours, staring at the snapshot and attempting to make sense of it. When Teresa arrived home that evening, I confronted her. I showed her the photograph and asked for an explanation. She initially denied it, claiming that it was not what it appeared to be. But when I questioned her, she broke down in tears and admitted to having an affair with a coworker for the past 2 months. Teresa's excuses made me feel awful. She claimed she felt lonely and ignored when I was grieving. She complained that I was not providing her needs and that she deserved happiness. She even had the arrogance to claim that I had pushed her to cheat by being emotionally unavailable. I was infuriated and heartbroken. I told Teresa to leave and that I wanted a divorce. She asked me to rethink and give her another opportunity. She screamed and pleaded, claiming it was a mistake and that she still loved me, but I knew I could never trust her again after this betrayal. The next day, Teresa called and texted me nonstop, attempting to explain herself. She claimed I was being harsh and exaggerating. She claimed that I had emotionally abandoned her by initially spending so much time with Mason and then withdrawing when grieving. She tried to blame me for encouraging her to cheat. I'm at a total loss. How could the lady I loved and trusted for 8 years do this to me, especially when I was grieving for my brother? And now she's attempting to blame me. Is it abnormal for me to refuse to even consider reconciliation? I feel like my entire universe has been broken. I keep revisiting our relationship in my head, wondering if there were any indicators I missed. Was Teresa always so selfish, and I just didn't notice, or did Mason's illness and death transform her? I'm doubting everything now. Part of me is upset with myself for not anticipating this. Perhaps if I had worked harder to balance my time between Mason and Teresa, this would not have occurred. But then I remember that a loving partner would have understood and supported me through such a difficult time. I haven't informed many people about Teresa's affair yet. I'm humiliated and don't want to deal with everyone's responses, but I know I'll need help moving forward, especially if I go through with the divorce. I am not sure what to do next. The prospect of going through a divorce while still grieving Mason is daunting, but I also can't imagine remaining with someone who could betray me like this. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thank you all for your encouraging words and advice. To clarify a few points, Teresa knew Mason and I were close. She'd met him several times and appeared to like him. She was in the hospital with me when he died. During my grief, I never entirely shut Teresa out. We continued to live together, have meals together and so on. I was just not in the mood to go out or be personal. Before confronting Teresa, I performed some research and discovered that the affair had been going on for 4 months, not 2 as she stated. So it began shortly after Mason died. Teresa and I had no major relationship troubles prior to this. We had regular disputes, but nothing significant. She never expressed feeling ignored until Mason became ill. I appreciate everyone's feedback as I absorb this betrayal. I'll give an update whenever I have more information. Update 1. It's been around 2 months since my original post. A lot has transpired, therefore I'd like to provide an update. I filed for divorce soon after learning Teresa's adultery. It was not an easy decision, but I knew I could never trust her again after what she had done. Teresa's reaction to the divorce petition was a mix of outrage and desperate pleas. She kept calling and messaging me, alternately offering emotional apologies and accusing rants. Teresa showed up unannounced at my office. She made a scene in the lobby, crying and imploring me to give her another chance. My coworkers were uncomfortable, and I was mortified. I had to have security escort her out. After that episode, I banned her phone number for my own sanity. Teresa left our house and moved in with her folks. I've been staying in the house, but it feels empty and filled with sad memories. I'm thinking about selling it and finding a new location, but the prospect of going through another major life upheaval is daunting. I learned from common friends that Teresa was telling everyone that I had mentally abused her by abandoning her emotionally. She stated that I had refused to speak or work on our marriage, forcing her to seek consolation elsewhere. It was infuriating to hear these lies circulated about me. Some of our friends have chosen sides in the divorce. The majority have been supportive of me, although a handful believe Teresa's version of events. I've lost a handful of friendships as a result of this, which hurts even more than everything else. I'm trying to concentrate on the folks who have supported me. The divorce process has been messy. Teresa is claiming that she is entitled to half of everything, including Mason's inheritance. My lawyer assures me that she has no legal claim to it, yet she is delaying the process regardless. It feels like a slap in the face that she would attempt to benefit from my brother's death after betraying me. In the aftermath of everything, I've been dealing with a lot of despair and trust issues. Some days, it's difficult to get out of bed. I lost weight since I rarely eat. My performance at work has diminished, but happily, my supervisor has remained understanding. One positive development. I reunited with an old high school classmate, Olivia. We ran into each other at a coffee shop and started conversing. Olivia lost her mother to cancer a few years ago, so she understood exactly what I was going through with Mason. We've been hanging out as friends, and it's great to have someone who gets it. Olivia and I have a lot in common, something I had forgotten about. We were both on the debate team in high school and enjoy watching old movies. She has been introducing me to new music and podcasts, which has provided a wonderful distraction. Olivia doesn't force me to talk about Teresa or the divorce, but she is an excellent listener when I need to vent. Teresa flipped out when she discovered I was spending time with Olivia. She arrived at my house unexpectedly, yelling that I was a hypocrite for moving on so soon while vilifying her. She accused me of having an affair with Olivia, which is completely false. I had to threaten to call the cops before she left. The situation has been a nightmare, but I'm taking things one day at a time. I'm working on healing and discovering who I am outside of my connection with Teresa. I appreciate my family and friends' support during this trying time. I've been attempting to honor Mason's memory in constructive ways. I donated to the cancer facility where he was treated and have been volunteering whenever I can. Mason's wife, Sarah, and their children have been an excellent source of support. We have dinner together frequently, and it's helpful to talk about Mason with others who care about him as much as I do. There are still times when I miss Teresa and the life we shared, but then I remember her betrayal and how she has acted after I discovered the truth. It helps to emphasize that I'm making the correct decision by terminating the marriage. I'm not ready to consider dating again. The idea of putting myself out there and risking another heartbreak is daunting. For the time being, my primary emphasis is on reconstructing my life and recuperating from everything that has occurred. I will provide another update after the divorce is official. Thank you again to everyone who has expressed kindness and advice. It truly helps to know that I'm not alone in this. Update 2. It has been around 6 months since my last update. I was relieved when the divorce was finally finalized last week. Teresa fought me every step of the way, attempting to prolong the process and collect more money. In the end, we split our joint assets 50-50ths, and she did not receive any of my Mason inheritance. Teresa returned to my office the day after her divorce became final. She was crying and begging me to reconsider, claiming she had made a terrible mistake but still loved me. I politely but firmly informed her that it was finished and requested her to leave. She refused, raising a commotion, and security had to remove her out. It was humiliating, so I took the rest of the day off work. My employer summoned me to his office the next day. I was concerned that he would be disturbed by the disruption, but he was actually very understanding. He mentioned that he had a messy divorce years ago and offered me some time off if I needed it. I was appreciative for his help and understanding. On a good note, Olivia has been doing well. What began as a friendship has gradually grown into something more. We've been officially dating for approximately 2 months now. Olivia is compassionate, sympathetic, and patient with me while I work through my trust difficulties. She encourages me to talk about Mason and never makes me feel awful for continuing to grieve. Olivia and I have been taking it slowly, which I love. We enjoy cooking together, taking long walks, and binge-watching TV shows. She's been assisting me in rediscovering old hobbies that I had abandoned throughout my marriage, such as playing guitar and photography. I've also focused on myself. I joined a gym, began learning guitar, and have traveled extensively. It is fantastic to rediscover who I am as a person. I went on a solo excursion to the mountains, which I had always wanted to do but Teresa was not interested in. It was pleasant to be alone with my thoughts and environment. Teresa continues to disparage me to anyone who will listen. She has told common acquaintances that I'm cold and unfeeling, that I never truly loved her, and that Olivia and I must have had an affair prior to our divorce. It's frustrating, but I'm trying not to get involved in her drama. I have begun spending more time with Mason's family. His children are growing up so quickly, and it's bittersweet to watch them hit milestones that Mason isn't present for. We've developed a ritual of having Sunday dinners together, telling tales about Mason and keeping his memory alive. Mason would have celebrated his birthday last month. It was a difficult day, but Olivia recommended we do something to honor Dad. We ended up organizing a modest charity race in Mason's honor, with funds benefiting cancer research. It felt amazing to turn my grief into something positive. Overall, I'm a lot better off than I was a year ago. I still miss Mason deeply, but the pain is not as intense. I am cautiously optimistic about my future with Olivia and I'm pleased of myself for holding firm and not allowing Teresa to mislead me into reconciling. There are still difficult days, of course. Sometimes I wake up angry at Teresa for abandoning our marriage. Other times, I miss the future we envisioned together. But I'm learning to sit with these emotions without allowing them to overwhelm me. Thank you again to everyone in our community for their support. It helped me get through some difficult times. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm feeling optimistic for the first time in a long time. Update 3. It's been almost a year since my previous update. Life has returned to normal, and I'd want to express my last opinions on the matter. Olivia and I are still together and going strong. We just moved in together and adopted a dog. She's been a tremendous help through everything. I still have moments of insecurity and doubt, but Olivia is always kind and supportive. Our relationship isn't perfect, we've had our share of arguments and challenges, but we always try to talk freely and work through problems together. It's wonderful to be around someone who values honesty and mutual respect. I met Teresa at a mutual friend's wedding a few months ago. It was awkward, but we managed to remain cordial. She apologized again for her behavior during our divorce and stated that she was in therapy, working on herself. I wished her well but made it obvious that I was not interested in rekindling any kind of relationship, including friendship. Seeing Teresa evoked a variety of feelings. Part of me was outraged again, remembering her betrayal and the suffering she caused, but I also felt a sense of closure. Talking to her made me realize how much I'd grown and healed in the last few years. The pain over Mason is coming in waves now. Some days are more difficult than others, particularly around his birthday and the anniversary of his death, but I've discovered healthy methods to cope and celebrate his memory. I volunteer at the hospital where he was treated and have grown close to his wife and children. Mason's oldest son at 14, has been struggling lately. He's been acting out at school and is dealing with rage issues. I've been spending more time with him, taking him to basketball games and simply being there to talk. It feels amazing to be there for him in the same way Mason has always been for me. Olivia and I have discussed our future together. We are not in a rush to marry, but we both see this as a long-term relationship. We've spoken about having kids eventually, something I never imagined I'd desire after what happened with Teresa. It's hard to think of opening my heart again, but Olivia makes me feel protected. Work is going great. I was promoted a few months ago, which has been both exhilarating and challenging. The new work requires more travel, which has been difficult for Olivia and me, but we're figuring out how to balance our time together with our respective activities. I'm attempting to reconnect with past hobbies and interests. I joined a local amateur baseball league, which I enjoyed in college but gave up when life became busy. It's been exciting to get back on the field and meet new people. Olivia attends my sports whenever she can, cheering me on from the stands. Looking back, I see how toxic my relationship with Teresa had been, even before the adultery. We had grown apart, but we were both afraid to accept it. While I will never excuse her affair, I have accepted what happened and am looking ahead. There are still instances when I think, what if? What if Mason didn't get sick? What if I had noticed Teresa moving away sooner? What if I'd done things differently? But I am learning to let go of such thoughts and concentrate on the present. I am not the same person I was when I wrote the first post 2 years ago. The anguish and betrayal transformed me, but not all of the changes were negative. I've learned a lot about myself, resilience, and what I truly want from a spouse and in life. To anyone going through a similar situation, it does get better. Take the time to heal, surround yourself with supporting friends, and don't be scared to start afresh. You deserve happiness and someone who actually appreciates you. This will be my final update on this storyline. Thank you again for your kindness and encouragement over the last few years. It made a huge impact during the worst periods. I am looking forward to the future, whatever it may hold. Future Mill called me stupid and my fiancé laughed. Now I'm reconsidering the wedding. What should I do? Original post, I, 23F, am engaged to John, 24M. We have been together for 5 years. We want to get married in July 2025. I always thought that his family liked me because we get along well. He has 2 older brothers, 26M, 29M, both married. Honestly, I was very excited to have them all as my in-laws. They were always kind to me. Some kind of important information. About a year ago when I was scrolling on Instagram, I saw a profile that was kind of cringy but in a cute way. It was an older woman's profile who shared inspirational quotes. I remember one particular post and it was something in the lines of, "Only stupid people pretend to know everything. Don't pretend, just ask." Honestly, this quote changed me in a lot of ways. Before that I was always worried that I might embarrass myself if I didn't know something, and after reading that quote I realized that if I always pretend that I know everything then I'll miss out on actually getting to learn about things. So I decided to change my habits and start admitting that sometimes I genuinely don't know. Someone is talking about the war in Kosovo. Okay, sure, but first let me ask some questions so I can really understand what we're talking about. And I ask a lot of questions sometimes. I sometimes even open the Notes app and write in some questions that I later want to find answers to. These are my latest. How does time work in the black hole? Why do some snails have shells and others don't? What food is okay for ducks? How does the light bulb work, the old ones with gas inside them? Does everyone see colors the same? And how can we know that? Sorry for the long introduction, but it was kind of necessary for understanding what kind of person I am. I know that sometimes I might come across as annoying. Now on to the problem. His parents hosted a small barbecue last weekend only for the family. So it was the mom, 54F, dad, 59M, brothers, 26M, 29M, and their wives, 27F, 27F. I was the last person who showed up because I had to work late. I entered the house, and when I was walking towards the back of the house into the backyard I heard John's mom talking about me. To be honest, she wasn't talking about me, more like mocking me. I heard her say in a high-pitched voice, "How does the sun work? Where should I put the fork? Why does nobody like me? How do I wipe my ass?" I just stood there. I had this sinking feeling. I couldn't move, so I just stood there. And I heard them all laughing. One of the wives said, "I actually don't mind her always asking questions. I think it's cute." And it made me feel hopeful that they will say something like, "Yeah, sure, we're just playing. We love that." But none of them did. Instead the mom replied, "It's not cute, she's just stupid." After that they laughed again. I heard John laughing. My heart kind of broke at that moment because he didn't even say one positive thing. He didn't defend me. He just laughed. I quietly turned around and left the house. I texted John that I got sick and had to stay home. Now I'm wondering how I should approach this situation. We live together and I sleep in the guest bedroom for now, and I use the excuse that I don't want him to get sick from being around me. I can't ignore him forever and I can't pretend to be sick anymore, because it's been too long. I'm not sure how to proceed. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. I'm considering talking to them about this, but I'm also worried that they won't be honest with me. I can't marry him if he really thinks I'm stupid. But I also can't marry into a family who thinks so little of me. But maybe it was a joke and I shouldn't take it so seriously. I'm so torn apart, and every day I convince myself a bit more that it's okay and sometimes we should all laugh about ourselves. Now I feel like I'm just going crazy. I would really appreciate some advice. TLDR, overheard future MEL calling me stupid and my fiancé laughed. Considering leaving him. I'm wondering if it might be just a joke and maybe a misunderstanding. Need advice on how to navigate the situation. Edit. There are many comments saying that they cannot stand people like me. I agree that sometimes I can be a bit too much with the questions, but with that being said, I still think I'm within reason. I don't do it around people I just met. I rarely do it at parties or other gatherings. I usually do it with people who are close to me, who I think wouldn't judge me, or with people who specifically have knowledge about something and are willing to share it. If I'm a part of a conversation, I'm not rude and I'm not interrupting. I usually just ask one or two questions. If a discussion is about climate change, I'm not asking about monkeys, if you know what I'm saying. I'm also not a complete dumbass. I don't ask questions which generally would be considered dumb to other people. I just write in the notes and check answers later on the internet. I'm capable of reading, so I make good use of it. But after all, I still do ask questions a lot. Update post. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to people who reached out to answer my questions about black holes, snails, ducks, light bulbs and other stuff. I would love to have you as my friends. For the other people who said I should just shut up. I don't really care if you find me annoying or hard to be around. I'm okay with that. I don't exist to please everyone. I'm just here for a good time, have my own interests and learn. I didn't expect my post to gain so much attention, but I'm so grateful for the advice. Most of you told me to break up with him and at the very least confront him, so that's what I decided to do. You gave me a push and confidence to do it. But before I did that, I texted the wife of John's brother, the one who said she liked me asking questions. I asked if we could meet up for coffee. She said sure. We met and I didn't see the point in pretending to her that I didn't hear their conversation. So after some small talk, I just said, I heard you all talking about me during the BBQ. She immediately got sad and said she felt embarrassed. She explained that it wasn't a joke, wasn't out of context, that it was just mean and hurtful. She said she's sorry for not defending me more, but I said that's okay and I understand. I told her that I don't blame her for anything, and just wanted to make sure that I understood the situation and see it for what it really was. And it really was laughing at me behind my back. Just bullying. At this point I just had to confront John. In my last post so many comments were saying that he will probably try gaslighting me. And you were right. We were having dinner together for the first time since the BBQ happened, because before I tried my best to avoid him. Yes, I know. Not very mature of me, but other than you guys I don't really have a strong support system. My family and best friends are hundreds of kilometers away. I only have 2 good friends here. I was so stressed I thought I'm going to pass out. My legs were shaking and I was terrified because I knew deep down that this is the moment when my 5-year relationship goes down the drain. I looked him in the eyes and asked, "How does the sun work?" He looked confused, so I followed with, "Where should I put my fork? Why does nobody like me?" At this point realization hit him and he started nervously laughing. I said I was there and I heard them. After the initial shock passed, he got mad. He said it's rude to eavesdrop. I said it's rude to bully people. He tried telling me that it was just a joke, that I shouldn't be so uptight. That it really was funny. I said that I didn't find it funny and went to the guest to calm down. He started panicking. He was asking me to please talk to him. He was much more apologetic and said that he will be 100% honest with me. I asked if his mother made similar comments before the BBQ. He said yes. I asked him if he ever defended me. He said he tries to. I don't know if I believe him. He told me he loves me and respects me. I don't know if I believe it either. I said that I love him too, but I need a break. He's all I ever knew. He was my first and only partner. I have no outside perspective of this. I have no experience. I need a moment to think. I will be going to my friend's house for a while to think everything through. The apartment has his name on the lease anyway. After I gathered some of my things and left, he kept texting me non-stop. He tried calling but I didn't respond. I was very hurt because he tried to belittle my feelings and only later when he realized that I might break up with him, started apologizing. The next day I decided to give him another chance to explain himself and I came back to the apartment. He seemed very sad and tired. He said that he told his mother that I overheard them. I said I don't care. It's his time to step up and show me that he cares. I'm not interested in an apology from his mother. I'm already done with her. I can't put up with this behavior and mocking me like we're in primary school. I saw a comment saying that probably her ego is hurting. I think it's true. She never got the chance or never had the desire to have an education. She is a very good homemaker, but outside of that she doesn't have many interests of her own. If I'm asking her about making tomato soup, she will be talking for 30 minutes lecturing me about adding enough sugar, but not too much. She will lecture anyone who is willing to listen. But anytime someone is talking about something she's not familiar with, she gets defensive and tries to imply that nobody cares about that, and if it's not relevant to her, it shouldn't be discussed. Once again he tried telling me that I should relax because it was only a joke, and at this point I had enough. I took off my ring and told him that his behavior is a joke and I can't be the punchline. I told him that I wish him and his family the best and to look in the mirror to check if they really are as superior as they think they are. I said I'm going to be back with my friend soon to pick up the rest of my stuff and to not contact me again unless it's about moving my things out. And that's it, I'm done. Thank you all for the advice. Without you I wouldn't have the confidence to leave this man. I know I deserve better. I can't be with someone who can't stand up for me, and I wouldn't be able to feel comfortable around his family, so I'm done with the relationship. I hope they will treat his next girlfriend better. Thank you again on Reddit for advice. Relevant comments. Commenter, keep on being curious. Not judgmental. OOP. Same. I absolutely love that show. I watched it with my ex and it's funny that he didn't like Ted and thought that his character was not relatable and silly. TBH, we all should have Ted's strength and positivity sometimes. Commenter, OP, your ex-mill can still go and get an education. Many have and there is still time. That's no excuse for what she did, and her saying that and acting like that shows how uneducated she is. OP, I think so too. I believe it's never too late to start learning something new and continue education. In my uni there was an old lady in her 70s, who recently graduated and everyone was just so proud of her. In my country, university is free, so the barrier of entry isn't as bad as in the US, for example. Update 2. It's been some time since I posted the last time, so I thought I'm gonna give you guys a small update, because some people still keep messaging me. I appreciate all the kind words. So, I got my own apartment now. I lived with my friend for a while and she was an amazing support for me after the breakup, but now I have my own place closer to my university and work. Turns out my ex-fiancé didn't tell his family that we broke up. I blocked them all except for the ex, because we needed to keep in touch in order to get my stuff from the apartment that we shared. And nice Sil. And a week after the breakup she texted me and asked when I will come to the parents' house because everyone wants to apologize. I called her and said that we're no longer together and I don't really want their apology. She seemed shocked because my ex was telling them that, we're fine, she just needs some time. XS told me that the family is still fighting over this whole ordeal and that the brothers are giving my ex a hard time about the situation. I told her nicely that I don't really want any updates. I like her, but I cannot put my energy towards following their every move. She told me she understands. I don't know what happened after that with them. I'm happy. I went on a date with a cute guy I met in a cafe, but I'm taking everything slow and I don't want to rush any relationship. I'm not ready because just 3 months ago I was planning a wedding and right now I'm single and focusing on studying and work. When I graduate I want to adopt a kitten, and that's my only goal in terms of any big commitment right now. I also enrolled in CS50 by Harvard X and I recommend you all to try and learn something new today. If you have any questions then feel free to ask and I will try to answer in the comments. OOP's comments. Commenter, update us on the kitten please. OOP. I will for sure. I'm so excited. I wanted to get a cat for so long but my ex was against it. He didn't like cats. He was a dog person. I'm waiting till I graduate because I want to have more free time to actually take care of it. Commenter, this may sound like a lot, but consider adopting 2 together. 2 siblings or a bonded pair are not much more work than one and they entertain each other and are so fun to watch. My profile pic is of our kitten we adopted with his sister at the same time and it's great. Oop, oh okay, that's good to know, thanks. And your kitten is so cute, give him and his sister some scratches and pets from me. Commenter, part of a longer comment. May I ask if you have already gone and picked your stuff from his place and blocked him for good? Hope so for you to end the chapter more easily. OOP. Yeah, after a week and a half I was done picking up my stuff. I tried not to be petty and take my silverware for example and not give him a reason to get mad. I didn't want to come alone, so I only went when my friend had the time to help me. He did get mad when I took my air fryer. He loved it more than anything, haha. I blocked him after I took everything that was mine. Ex's family. I think even though the brothers still think what the family said during the BBQ was funny, they are giving my ex a hard time because he let a good one go or something like that. They don't think they were in the wrong, but they're making fun of him for not standing up for me, and they're laughing at the fact that I broke up with him and he didn't even have the balls to tell them. One of them said that if someone called his wife stupid, he would defend her even if she would have done something dumb. Commenter: you don't have a SIL, law is literally in the title. OP: yeah, it's just easier for people to read and understand. I didn't want to call her my fiancé brother's wife because that's long and awkward. Commenter: seems like you moved on very easily. From love to engaged and blocked within a few weeks. OP: yeah, the love faded really fast. I didn't expect it. The attachment to him is still there, but I very quickly stopped feeling love for him when I fully realized that he sees me as stupid and at the very least not on his level. My spiteful sister-in-law accused me of stealing her diamond ring, but when this was revealed, she wasn't ready for the shock. I, 29F, have been married to Shane, 31M, for 5 years. We have a solid connection and a comfortable lifestyle. Shane has a sister, Tori, 33, who has been married to Mike, 35, for 8 years. Tori and I never really got along. Tori appeared to dislike me ever since Shane introduced me to his family. At first, I assumed it was simply because she was protective of her brother, but as time passed, I understood there was more to it. I was raised in a middle-class family. My parents worked hard to support me and my siblings. We never had luxuries, but we always had what we needed. I went to college on scholarships and worked part-time jobs to cover my expenditures. Following college, I took a job at a technology company and worked my way up. Tori, on the other hand, hailed from an affluent household. She never had to worry about money and received everything she desired. She attended an expensive private college before marrying Mike, who was also from a wealthy background. Tori didn't work and spent her time shopping, visiting spas, and attending social gatherings. When Shane and I began dating, Tori made it apparent that she did not think I was suitable for her brother. She'd make snarky remarks about my clothing, employment, and background. Despite the fact that Shane was seeing me, she was constantly trying to match him up with her wealthy friends. Despite Tori's attitude, Shane and I married. Our wedding was simple yet gorgeous. We paid for it ourselves and held a small ceremony for close friends and relatives. Tori complained about everything at the wedding, including the food and decor. She even donned a white outfit, which I chose to overlook to avoid the controversy. Shane's career skyrocketed following our marriage. He was promoted numerous times and began earning a decent salary. We were able to buy a wonderful home and go on vacation. This seemed to aggravate Tori's jealousy. She was constantly comparing our life to hers, always attempting to outdo us. Last month, Shane's parents invited the entire family to spend the weekend at their lake house. I didn't want to go because of Tori, but Shane persuaded me that it would be beneficial for family bonding. The first day went fine. We all arrived on Friday evening and dined together. Tori rarely spoke to me, which was okay with me. On Saturday morning, we had a swim in the lake. After lunch, Tori recommended we all play board games. Tori continued to show off her beautiful diamond ring while we were playing. She made a great deal about how pricey it was and how her father had surprised her with it on their anniversary. I complimented the ring politely, but Tori simply rolled her eyes. Later that afternoon, I decided to have a nap. I was fatigued after driving and swimming. I walked to the guest room Shane and I stayed in and fell asleep. I awoke about an hour later to shouting. I walked downstairs and discovered Tori screaming and crying. She yelled that her diamond ring was missing. Everyone was attempting to calm her down and help her find it. Tori was turning the living room upside down, tossing cushions and peering beneath furniture. Tori then pointed at me and cried that I had taken her ring. She claimed I was envious of her ring and wanted it for myself. I was astonished and rejected it right away. Shane defended me, stating that I would never do such a thing. Tori stated that I was the only one who had been alone in the house while everyone else went outdoors. She insisted that I empty my pockets and show her my baggage. I felt ashamed, but I did everything she wanted to establish my innocence. The ring was not present, but Tori was dissatisfied. To my dismay, Mike chimed in and accused me of hiding the ring somewhere. He stated I must have done it out of envy and recommended we check our room. I could not believe what was happening. I looked to Shane's parents for help, but they were apprehensive. Shane's father suggested that we all search the house thoroughly. We looked everywhere for hours and couldn't find the ring. As time passed, I noticed uncertainty creeping into everyone's eyes. Even Shane's mother, who had always been friendly to me, gave me skeptical looks. By dinner time, the mood was terrible. Tori was still crying, and Mike was soothing her while staring at me. Shane's cousins were whispering amongst themselves, and I could sense their accusing eyes. The breaking point came when Shane's father pulled him aside. I overheard him instructing Shane to man up and make me return the ring or pay for it. He claimed the ring was worth hundreds of dollars, and Tori was upset. Shane lost his temper. He yelled at his father, stating he couldn't believe his own family would accuse him without evidence. He exclaimed that I was innocent and Tori had probably misplaced the ring. This resulted in a heated argument, with everyone taking sides. I felt terrible. I couldn't believe what was occurring. My husband's family treated me like a criminal even though I had never stolen anything in my life. Shane grabbed my hand in the middle of our quarrel and told me we were leaving. He informed his family that he was upset with them for leaping to conclusions and mistreating me. We packed our stuff quickly and went, despite his parents' objections. Shane was seething as he drove home. He repeatedly apologized to me, claiming he couldn't believe his family would do this. I was astonished and didn't know what to say. I felt bad for fostering this schism in Shane's family, even though I knew I had done nothing wrong. When we arrived home, Shane's phone was swamped with messages from his relatives. Tori demanded we pay for the ring. Mike had sent me a lengthy text accusing me of wrecking their lives via jealousy. Shane's parents asked him to be reasonable and return to work things out. Shane blocked all of their numbers that night. He said he didn't want to speak with any of them until they apologized to me, but I could tell how much this was hurting him. He adored his family, and this split was tearing him apart. A week has gone by, but the situation has not improved. Tori has been posting on social media about how I took her valuable anniversary gift. Some of Shane's extended family members have contacted us, encouraging us to do the right thing and pay for the ring to maintain peace. I am at a loss. I know I didn't take the ring, but I can't prove it. Shane trusts me, but I can see the toll it is having on him. He has lost weight and is not sleeping properly. He's even thinking about changing careers so we can relocate to another place and escape all of this stress. Part of me wonders if we should just pay for the ring to put this all behind us, but it's a lot of money, and more importantly, it would be admitting to something I didn't do. I'm afraid if we give in now, Tori will keep this over my head forever. I never wanted to come between Shane and his family. Regardless of our differences, I hoped Tori and I would eventually get along. Now it appears that will never happen. I do not know what to do. Should I maintain my innocence, even if it means Shane loses his family? Should we pay for the ring to maintain peace? How can I prove I didn't steal something when there is no evidence either way? This entire affair has been a nightmare. I've lost sleep, can't concentrate at work, and am constantly anxious. Shane swears he'll always support me, but I can tell this is causing him pain as well. So Reddit, should I admit to stealing a ring that I did not take or pay for? How would you handle my situation? How can I resolve this situation without jeopardizing my integrity? Update. It's been 3 months since my previous post, and a lot has happened. I never anticipated things to turn out the way they did, but I'm glad the truth is now out. 2 weeks after the incident at the lake house, Leah, Shane's cousin, called me. She stated that she had some information about Tori's missing ring and wanted to meet me in person. I was hesitant at first, but Leah argued that it was necessary. The following day, we met in a small cafe. Leah appeared anxious and kept looking around, as if she was frightened someone would overhear us. She informed me that she had heard something unexpected from Angela, Ethan's girlfriend. Ethan was Mike's best friend. Angela told Leah that Mike had removed Tori's ring. Mike and Ethan had apparently entered into a business deal with a loan shark. They borrowed a significant quantity of money, but instead of investing it, they used it all to gamble and party in Las Vegas. When it came time to repay the debt, they were broke. In desperation, Mike took Tori's ring and sold it to help pay off the debt. He then used the family gathering to stage the ring's disappearance and blamed me. I was stunned. I couldn't believe what I heard. Part of me was happy that I wasn't insane and hadn't taken the ring, but another part of me was angry and upset that Mike would do this to his own wife and then blame me for it. Leah stated that she did not know what to do with this information. She felt bad for keeping it a secret, but she was frightened of causing additional family problems. I thanked her for informing me and told her that I would handle it responsibly. When I arrived home, I told Shane exactly what Leah had said. At first, he was skeptical. He couldn't believe his brother-in-law would do anything like this, but as we discussed it, things began to make sense. We remembered Mike's uneasy demeanor throughout the ring incident and how quick he was to accuse me. Shane decided to do some digging. He began by contacting some of Mike's old college pals and discovered that Mike had a gambling history that he had kept hidden from his family. Mike's acquaintances reported that he had recently been in financial problems. Then Shane hired a private detective. It took some time, but the PI eventually tracked down the loan shark from whom Mike had borrowed money. The man acknowledged that Mike and Ethan had taken out a loan and had recently made a partial repayment with a diamond ring. Shane was infuriated. He wanted to face Mike right away, but I advised him to acquire additional proof first. We didn't want this to become another situation in which our word was against theirs. Shane labored tirelessly for weeks to develop a case. He obtained bank statements that showed big transactions from Mike and Tori's joint account around the time of their Las Vegas trip. He discovered credit card statements containing charges from casinos. He even obtained security camera footage from a pawn shop showing Mike selling the ring. Shane convened a family meeting after we had collected all of the evidence. He assured everyone that they were going to talk about the ring issue and try to move ahead as a family. Tori and Mike consented, possibly believing it was an opportunity for me to finally confess. I was quite nervous on the day of the meeting. Shane's parents hosted it in their home. When we arrived, everyone was already present. Tori gave me a chilly glance, while Mike avoided eye contact entirely. Shane began by thanking everyone for coming. He stated that the ring event had created a great deal of pain in the family, and it was time to clear the air. Then he dropped the bombshell. He knew exactly what had happened to the ring. The room became silent. Tori looked perplexed, as Mike turned pale. Shane then proceeded to put forth all of the evidence we had collected. He handed them the bank statements, credit card bills, and pawnshop film. He even had Ethan on speakerphone and reluctantly corroborated the entire tale. As Shane spoke, the expressions on everyone's faces changed: shock, astonishment, and finally rage. Tori fell into tears and asked Mike if it was true. Mike broke down and confessed everything. He said he never intended for things to get this far, and he was going to find a way to get the ring returned. Tori was devastated. She couldn't believe Mike stole her ring and then blamed an innocent person. Shane's parents were surprised and ashamed. They apologized profusely for questioning me. Mike left the house in humiliation after the encounter, while Tori remained behind, too unhappy to join him. Shane's father hugged me and apologized for telling Shane to make me pay for the ring. Shane's mother was in tears, begging for my forgiveness. In the days that followed, I got calls and texts from several family members. They all apologized for believing I was capable of stealing and for treating me poorly. Some others brought flowers or gift baskets as peace gestures. Tori called me a week after our meeting. She apologized for blaming me and for all of the hurtful things she had said and done over the years. She revealed that she was always envious of me and my friendship with Shane. She announced that she was seeking for divorce from Mike and asked if we could start afresh. I was cautious at first, but I could detect genuine guilt in her voice. I told her I forgive her, but it would take time to regain trust. She understood and expressed her willingness to put in the effort. Mike moved out of their home and into a modest apartment. When his boss discovered the gambling and loan sharking, he was fired. Last I heard, he was going to Gamblers Anonymous sessions and trying to change his life. Shane and I had lengthy discussions about all that had happened. He felt bad about not believing in me more passionately from the start. I informed him that I realized how terrible the situation had been and that I valued his assistance throughout. We also talked about how we would handle our relationship with his family going ahead. We decided that while we would attempt to preserve positive ties, we would be more cautious about becoming involved in family issues in the future. The entire event drew Shane and I closer together. We discovered how strong our friendship was and how we could count on each other even when others doubted us. It also made us understand the value of trust and honesty in a partnership. Tori stuck to her word about trying to better our friendship. She began inviting me for coffee or lunch, just the two of us. At first, our chats were awkward and stiff, but we eventually discovered common ground. She spoke openly about her vulnerabilities and the pressure she faced growing up in a rich family. I told anecdotes of my own challenges and how I started my career from nothing. Things gradually began to shift. Tori stopped making nasty remarks at family events or attempting to outdo me. Instead, she was nice and even defended me when some of my more distant relatives mentioned the ring incident. Shane's parents went out of their way to make me feel comfortable and included. They would frequently call to check on me and ask us over for dinner. Shane's father even sought my guidance on some business things, claiming he valued my opinion. The ring was never recovered. We found out the facts after the loan shark had already sold it. Tori was disappointed at losing her father's present, but she claimed the event taught her that worldly possessions were less essential than trust and family. Leia, the cousin who initially informed me of Mike's conduct, became a good friend. She expressed admiration for how I handled the problem and wished she had been bold enough to speak up sooner. We began having frequent girls' nights out with some of our other cousins. The incident also influenced how I perceived myself. I realized that I had always felt nervous around Shane's family because of my history, but standing up for myself and revealing the truth gave me greater confidence. I knew I had earned my place in the family through my own efforts, not because of wealth or prestige. Shane and I had a lengthy talk about boundaries and family dynamics. We agreed that, while we would retain contacts with his family, we would be more aggressive about our own needs and boundaries. We also decided to begin seeing a couples therapist to work through some of the remaining stress from the entire experience. In an unexpected turn of events, Shane's company offered him a promotion that required us to relocate to another state. After considerable contemplation, we decided to take it. We saw it as an opportunity for a new beginning away from the lingering unpleasantness of the ring affair. We received different reactions from our relatives when we announced our decision. Some were saddened to see us leave, while others recognized our need for space. Tori, in particular, appeared unhappy, but stated that she supported our decision. She pledged to continue working on our relationship long distance. As we packed up our house and prepared to leave, I thought about everything that had happened: the false charge, the family turmoil, and the discovery of the truth. It all appeared strange. I never knew that a misplaced ring could cause so much havoc while also leading to so much personal progress. I learned significant lessons about advocating for yourself, gathering facts before making accusations, and the power of forgiveness. I also learned that family dynamics are complex and that it is acceptable to establish limits, even with kin. Shane and I are enthusiastic for our new journey in a new city. We're excited to start a new life free of the shadows of previous family dramas. We intend to visit during the holidays and stay in touch, but we also want to build our own customs and social circle. Tori and I had a rather emotional last talk before the relocation. She thanked me for giving her a second chance and promised to be a better sister-in-law and friend. She even joked about visiting us in our new city to show that she could have fun without her nice clothes and pricey jewelry. Looking back, I could not have imagined how things would turn out when I published my first post. Life has a tendency of shocking us, and the truth can be stranger than fiction. While I wouldn't wish the experience on anyone, I am happy for the growth and adjustments it has brought to my life and relationships. My wife's sister tried to kiss me and now my wife is spiraling. Help me. Sorry for how long this is, teal daughter at the bottom. As the title says, my wife's sister made a pass at me at a recent family gathering and I have no idea what to do. For context, I think my wife Jenna is absolutely gorgeous, but she has some really negative body image issues. This is in large part because of her sister Mary, who is very conventionally attractive, as opposed to Jenna's more unconventional but, IMO, striking beauty. Mary was a successful model until a couple years ago and now works in the fashion industry. In our early days of dating, when I would tell Jenna she's beautiful, she would always say, "Just wait until you see my sister." When I did finally meet her family, she would randomly press me for weeks to talk about her sister, whether I thought she was more attractive than her, etc. I always told her the truth, that I think Mary is attractive in a boring way, and that I think my wife is much more beautiful and interesting to look at. She wouldn't let it go until I confronted her about how uncomfortable it made me and asked her what was going on. This is when she told me that she always had a chip on her shoulder about her looks because of being compared with her sister growing up. They fell into the classic smart one pretty one dynamic their whole lives. She also said Mary had a habit of being flirty with all of her exes and warned me that it would happen to me eventually. She then started sobbing and begging me to not cheat on her with her sister, to which I forcefully said I would never cheat on her with anyone, let alone her sister. I've been crazy about my wife since day one and there's literally no woman on earth who could come close to her. I honestly didn't believe her about the flirting at first. I assumed it was just an extension of her insecurity, but I was wrong. Whenever we get together with my wife's family, Mary always finds ways to touch me and make little innuendos comments about me or my body. It's super uncomfortable for everyone, especially my wife, and I've called her out on it before. She'll cool it for a while but eventually start doing it again. It's been 6 years of this, and every time it happens my wife is upset for days and I have to do a lot of reassuring. On to the current problem. A few days ago we were at my MIL's birthday party and Mary asked me to help her grab some things from the garage. As soon as we walked into the garage, she turned and pressed me up against the door with her whole body and started trying to kiss me. I immediately pushed her off and asked her what the fuck she was doing. She started giggling and saying she was just doing what we both have been thinking, and kept insisting, "You know you want to." I told her she was out of her mind and ran out of there. I went straight to my wife and told her we were leaving. The whole ride home she was asking me what was wrong. I wasn't sure whether to tell her because I knew how much it was going to hurt, but I also thought Mary would probably try to spin it as me making a move on her, so I knew I had to just say it. I told her everything and she cried the whole way home. For the last several days Mary has been calling and texting my wife, doing exactly what I thought she would do, even telling my wife that I said she, Mary, was the hottest girl I've ever seen, which I had to assure my wife a million times that I did not and would never say, even though she believes my account of the situation. She's been a complete wreck the last several days. She's hardly eating. She pulls away from my touch when I try to hug her or just hold her hand. She says she feels hideous and disgusting. And I don't know what to do. This is the lowest I have ever seen her, and it hurts to see how much she's hurting. I have no idea what to do to help her heal from this. Reddit, what should I do? Teal.er, my wife's sister tried to kiss me and this is triggering deep-set body image insecurities for my wife. How do I help her? Relevant comment. OP on his in-laws enabling Mary's behaviors and the golden child status. OP, my in-laws definitely enable her behavior. She's the golden child. They brag about her constantly. Even though my wife is literally a neuroscientist. Their mom was a pageant queen and she was their dad's much younger trophy wife. Honestly, we may have to go no contact with all of them. Update 1. I got a few requests for updates, so here it is. I first want to thank everyone so much for your advice. It was extremely helpful and gave me a lot to think about. I'm especially thankful for the folks that asked me how I was doing. I realized that I have literally never had a chance to check in with myself after these things happen, and I've actually been holding a lot of frustration and resentment about it all. I've been harassed for years and it has either been brushed off or it's been eclipsed by the impact it has on my wife. I don't blame her for it, but this has been a good lesson in me not burying my feelings for the sake of others, even for her. I also want to clarify a couple of things that came up. Several people asked about how my wife's family feels about all this, and I explained in a comment that her parents are toxic and treat Mary as the golden child, even though my wife is a freaking neuroscientist, amazingly talented musician, speaks 3 languages fluently and another 2 conversationally. My wife and her family are seriously the only people who don't seem to understand how exceptional she is. I remember meeting one of my wife's family friends and talking to them about her research, and they said, "Oh wow, her parents just told us she works at a university." Whereas my parents literally introduce her as the family genius to everyone. It makes me so fucking angry to think about how her asshole family has stolen her shine her whole life. She's literally a Renaissance woman, but all they care about is looks and money. Some folks asked me why I would ever put myself in a situation alone with Mary given everything she's done. I have no good answers for that other than I never thought she would actually try to do anything. That possibility just didn't exist in my head. I realize now that I should have seen this would happen eventually. And that I should have been less concerned with keeping the peace and more concerned with shutting Mary's shit down before it escalated to this point. Hindsight is 20/20. Anyway, on to the update. The night I posted I told my wife that if she wanted to try to repair her relationship with her sister I would respect that, but that I don't feel comfortable being around her for the foreseeable future. I said Mary has obviously been deeply jealous of my wife her whole life because she is a hollow, ugly person whose entire value has an expiration date, while my wife actually has substance. I said that I think her whole family is toxic and has done nothing but put her down her whole life, but that only she can decide whether she still wants them in her life. I also told my wife that while I don't blame her for her emotional reaction, her insecurity is something that she needs to work on for our relationship to be healthy. What Mary did was sexual assault and she's been sexually harassing me for years, but I have consistently put aside my own feelings about this problem because of how it affects her, and that has prevented me from getting the support that I need to. I told her that her reaction only serves to punish herself and me for her sister's behavior, and there's no reason to give her that kind of power. I also told her something that a commenter said that really resonated with me. The only people who have ever considered her second best are her and her family. Everyone else sees her for who she really is. She was crying the whole time and agreed that she needed to go to therapy to work on her insecurity. We were able to find a therapist who specializes in body image/self-esteem issues to work with her individually, and we're looking for a couples therapist too. My wife sent a message to her parents and sister that explained exactly what happened and told them she would reach out to them if she ever feels ready to repair their relationship. We blocked all of them everywhere, but Mary has of course been spamming my family and our friends with nonsense, claiming I attacked her, I'm a drug addict, I abuse my wife, all kinds of bullshit that thankfully nobody believes. My wife is still down in the dumps, but I can see that things are getting a little better. She's eating and sleeping more, and she's cuddling with me in the mornings again, which is nice. Now I'm planning a surprise getaway for us this weekend. We're going to one of our favorite places and I'm going to wine and dine her and try to make her feel like the goddamn queen she is. I want to thank you all again for your help. You really helped me understand the severity of the problem, and again, thanks for helping me connect with my own feelings about all this. Y'all are the best. TL.dr, wife and I are going to therapy. We're going no contact with her family for the foreseeable future. I'm going to woo the hell out of my wife this weekend. Relevant comment OP on how he tries to be the best husband to Jenna and enjoying life together. The only genius thing I've ever done is marry her. I'm a pretty average dude TBH, so I have no idea how I snagged her. Sad to think her low self-esteem probably played a part, but I do work hard to be a good husband every day. Update 2. So I guess my original post got reposted onto TikTok and some other subs here on Reddit, so I've been getting tons of messages asking for updates. It feels like things are mostly settled, and I'm really hoping this will be my final update. First, I want to say that I've gotten so many questions about who Mary is, and I'm just not going to say. Suffice it to say that she's never been a household name famous, but she made a living solely on modeling for about a decade from what I understand. So she must have been popular enough that fashion people might know her. I really don't know how that whole world works. But it doesn't matter how many names you drop, you're not famous if you don't have a Wikipedia page. Also got lots of comments that, mostly, jokingly called me a simp, and I can't argue with that. I totally am a simp for my wife. She's the coolest. I hope you all find a love that makes you feel this way. Okay, I think that's it. Here is the actual update. My wife loved the getaway weekend. We had a blast, and by the end of it she said she felt like herself again. For a few days after we got back things were really quiet, so we were hopeful that Mary had finally given up, but I felt uneasy about it all. Many of you warned me that Mary would try to interfere with my work, and while I initially dismissed it, I figured I would reach out to my boss just in case. I've been working at the same company for almost 10 years and she's heard me vent about Mary before, so I didn't have to explain too much. My boss just reassured me that she knows my real character and would let me know if Mary tried anything. As you predicted, Mary did try to contact my boss a couple of days later, and the following is a recounting of what my boss told me. Apparently Mary said that I needed to be fired because I was a predator and claimed to have proof that I assaulted her. My boss said that was a very serious accusation to make and asked Mary to explain what proof she had. Mary claimed there was a camera that caught the whole incident and my boss asked her to send the video. Then Mary got flustered and said the police had it, so my boss asked her to send over a copy of the police report. Then Mary said it had a lot of private information in it, so my boss asked her to redact the private information and send it over. Then Mary said she didn't feel comfortable with that, and my boss told her that she could not take action against an employee based on word of mouth from a stranger. Then Mary shouted at her about victim blaming and hung up. Unfortunately, that was not the end of it. Last Wednesday, Mary somehow sent an email from my personal email account with a dick pic, not mine obviously, to the entire office. My best guess is that I must have left my email logged in on one of my in-laws' devices. She's definitely not smart enough to actually hack me. And I know this is completely beside the point, but of course she chose the weirdest looking dick I've ever seen. I played team sports all my life. I've seen a lot of dicks, and this was something else. It's honestly kind of funny to think about Mary Googling gross penis, or something, and sifting through hundreds of images to find just the right one. I had to apologize to everyone on staff and thankfully folks were surprisingly understanding. It's actually been kind of a nice bonding experience with my coworkers. I honestly didn't consider myself to be super well liked in the office, but it feels like everyone has been going out of their way to be kind to me and it means a lot. Anyway, at this point it was clear we had to escalate things legally. I really wanted to avoid it, but she forced my hand. My wife and I have a lawyer friend who helped us draft a cease and desist letter outlining her continued harassment and the material and emotional damage this is causing us. My wife then sent a message to Mary and my in-laws with a copy of the letter and made it very clear that we would pursue criminal and/or civil proceedings if her harassment continued. My wife's mom then called her crying and begged her to just let it go and leave Mary alone. My wife calmly explained that Mary is the only person responsible for this whole situation, and that their parents have always enabled her awful behavior. She also said something she later regretted but I think was pretty badass. Mary is going to stick you two in a nursing home and steal your money the minute she has the chance, and you deserve it. After the way her mom reacted, my wife is firmly settled on cutting off her family completely. This happened on Friday, and on Sunday Mary's best frenemy Anne sent my brother a message on Facebook to say Mary is going to leave us alone and to please not sue her. I told my brother not to respond, then just sat and enjoyed the idea that Mary was out there somewhere freaking out about the potential of having to actually face the consequences of her actions. It must be such a strange feeling for her. Since then, we haven't heard a peep from the grapevine. It feels like things are finally starting to go back to normal. My wife is starting therapy next week and will be starting couples therapy in a month or two. She wants to do some work on herself first. She's also taking a short leave from work to rest and recharge. I'm so proud of her for standing up for herself with her family and finally putting her mental health and well-being first. Thanks again to everyone who offered advice. This was a messy situation, but it definitely would have been messier without your help. Teal.er, Mary tried to get me fired, so we sent her a cease and desist. Now Mary's running scared. She and my in-laws are out of our lives, and we're doing much better without them. My wife is prioritizing her wellness and I am one proud simp. Update 3. I forgot about this account completely until today and logged in to see so many comments and messages asking for an update. It's honestly touching to see how many people care about this situation and want the best for me and my wife. This will be a brief update. I don't want to make this a regular thing, and the original situation has resolved enough that I'm hopeful this will be the end of the saga. Mary and my in-laws have pretty much left us alone. My MIL still tries to contact my wife every now and then, but she's made it clear to her family that if the first words out of their mouths aren't "I'm sorry," she isn't interested in a conversation. As you can see, the past 6 months have made my wife a badass. She has done some amazing work in therapy and her confidence is growing all the time. It's not just with her family. She's more comfortable asserting herself at work, with strangers, with friends, etc. She's even stopped putting up with some of my shit. To be fair, that shit is stuff like my leaving my socks everywhere around the house, but I'm seriously proud of her for telling me to cut it out. I'm becoming a more responsible and supportive partner because she's able to communicate her needs and expectations without feeling guilty about it. And I'm able to communicate things to her without intense emotions fully eclipsing the conversation. I didn't mention this in my earlier posts, but my wife does struggle with rejection sensitivity even outside of her family. Often if I brought up something that I felt needed to change, her emotional reaction to feeling like she did something wrong would be really intense, and instead of dealing with the problem, it would become about regulating her emotions. Now my wife has really good coping tools that allow her to talk about the problem without thinking she is the problem. And the biggest update, she's pregnant. We have a baby girl due in February. I am shitting my pants with excitement. We are going to love her so much and teach her that she is more than her beauty. She's going to have happy parents who love each other and work through issues as a team. The toxic cycle will be broken. Jenna's family doesn't know, and she's not sure if when she'll tell them, but if she does, there are going to be strong boundaries in place for how they can be a part of our daughter's life. And it'll start with family therapy. For now, she has one set of grandparents that will go to the end of the earth for her, and that's more than enough. My family has been absolutely incredible in their support and they are so excited for us. Things are looking better than they ever have. That's all, folks. Thanks again for your support on this wild journey. Teal.er, Mary and in-laws have mostly left us alone. Jenna is a badass now. We're having a baby and soon I'll have 2 queens in my life. Captain Simp, over and out. New update. Hello everyone, I have come here for advice before and you were all incredibly helpful, and I could really use some support again. You can check my post history for the full story, but TL.dr, last year my wife, Jenna, and I had to make the decision to go no contact with her whole family. Her sister, Mary, 30F, sexually assaulted me. In-laws defended her, and after some legal wrangling they finally left us alone. The situation wrecked my wife's self-esteem and tested our relationship, but we made it through. Jenna and I had our first daughter in February. She's amazing and we're doing great. We ended up moving away from Jenna's home state, NY, to mine, May, to be closer to my family, and they've been incredibly helpful with the baby. We have not seen Jenna's family since cutting contact and blocking them everywhere, and we didn't tell them about the baby. Yesterday we received a letter in the mail from my MIL and FIL, no idea how they got our address. Apparently my FIL has been diagnosed with late-stage cancer and is being told he could be dead in weeks. In-laws went on about how sorry they were for the way they handled the situation with Mary. They also apologized for the way they've treated my wife her whole life. Again, check post history, but basically Mary was the golden child and Jenna was an afterthought despite being super accomplished. They ended by saying they recently heard about the baby through the grapevine and want to meet their grandchild. To me, the apology seemed genuine. They went into detail on what they did wrong, apologized and expressed remorse, and explained what they should have done differently. They said they hoped to earn our forgiveness with time and were willing to do family therapy to heal our relationship. Jenna is not having it. She feels like it's too little too late and doesn't want to respond. She also suspects that they're lying about FIL's cancer and just want to pressure us into reconciliation so they can meet the baby. It seems ludicrous, but I guess I wouldn't put it past them. I want to respect my wife's feelings around this, but I'm worried that if the cancer is real, she may regret not taking this opportunity for reconciliation before he dies. I expressed this to her, but she is adamant and I haven't broached the topic since. My instinct is to wait a few more days until the shock wears off to talk about it again. I just don't know what the best way to approach it would be. I certainly don't want to force my wife to do anything she doesn't want to do, but I feel like she's not thinking clearly about this right now. It also must be noted that our baby is still struggling with sleep and we're both tired and emotional all the time, so I feel like this might be influencing how she feels about all this. What should I do here? Should I try again or just let it be? TLDR, in-laws are attempting to reconcile after claiming FIL was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Wife does not want to consider it, but I am worried she will regret it later on. Edit. People, stop being mean to me. I too am tired and emotional and my feelings are getting hurt. I am not forcing my wife to do anything. I brought it up one time. I know this is not about me. I don't personally care either way, I just want to support my wife. I intend to tell her I'm here to listen, talk about it if she wants to, but I fully support her decisions around this. She has a great therapist she trusts and I'll be here to support her however I can. Relevant comments. OP on respecting his wife's decisions on how she wants to deal with the possible family health situation if it's real. OP, to be clear, I will absolutely respect whatever decision she makes. I just feel like the news is so fresh and we're in such an emotionally complex place as it is that she may not be thinking clearly about it. A similar situation happened to a friend of mine and he regretted it for years, actually turning to alcohol pretty hard for a while after. My wife has worked really hard to improve her mental health and I worry about how the regret might set her back. Although I suppose if her family is actually lying, manipulating us, that would set her back too. I just don't know. Would it be terrible to bring it up again in a few days just to see if she feels differently? Edit. I've also thought about asking my parents to take the baby for a couple of days so we can get away and recharge. Maybe just getting my wife in a better headspace would allow her to think things through more carefully / less reactively. OP receiving advice on letting his wife lead the way of dealing with her family. She knows what her family is like all her life. OP, this was really helpful, thank you so much. I will give it time and let her lead the way. I hadn't thought about that, earn it with time thing. Like if he actually is about to die, what time are they talking about? And reading from other people that this is a common manipulation tactic makes me feel more strongly that my wife's instinct about them lying is correct. OP on letting his wife make decisions and don't bring their daughter into the mix. OP, I would never do this? Not sure what part of I would never force my wife to do anything she doesn't want to do isn't getting through to people, but I would never betray her like that. I've never gone behind her back and never will. We make decisions as a team and this is her call. I don't personally care if we never see them again. It isn't about me. I came here for advice on how to support my wife and hold space for her to talk about it. All I care about is her being okay. My mom and sister spent years trying to push me back into my ex's arms, but I married someone else, and now we're expecting a baby. When I was 16, I started seeing my best friend. Together until I graduated from high school, he proposed and I turned him down. My family asked me to rethink as we may have a lengthy engagement or pledge to reunite, and there was much turmoil with them. For a while, my relationship with my 36-year-old brother weakened. The one with my sister, who is 32, never recovered. She got intolerable when she started dating my ex's brother as she was confident my ex was the ideal fit for me. My siblings invited my ex everywhere, including several family holidays, but I said nothing since he was their friend as well. That is until my sister started advocating for our reunion. No matter the circumstance, my sister tried everything from try to arrange for us to share a room during holidays to setting us on blind dates. One invited my ex to it. I had enough after a time and urged my parents to step in. They stopped inviting my ex to events or letting him tag along so much and were upfront with my siblings. It was only marginally better, but while my brother withdrew, my sister did not. It all came crashing when I ran across my husband on a semester abroad. We simply clicked even though he attended another university but from a different nation. For me, it was fantastic. We started dating a year ago. Except for my sister, my family was really glad for me. She persisted in saying I would grow out of the honeymoon phase. I obviously didn't, and I would quit talking to her if she pulled anything else after many battles and tried to get me back with my ex. After that caution, what does she do? She appoints one of her friends as my husband's date, asks me to spend all my time with the bridal party, aka my ex, and makes me her maid of honor. The poor girl tried to pass at my husband, and we didn't know until we were at the reception. Since we are not married, My sister stated it was acceptable to explore things with others. I left the celebration, and the next day I chatted with my brother and parents. I said that although I won't force them to make decisions, I will not interact with my sister ever again and will cut off all communication with them should they try to mend things between us. While my dad and brother indicated they would support my choice, my mom was distraught and sought to compromise. Apart from 2 tries from my mother, over 6 years I haven't spoken, written, or anything with my sister. From gifts to tantrums, my sister has tried everything to mend with me, but I hardly interact with her at all. If we're at a family dinner or gathering, I just pretend she doesn't exist. She tried to generate drama or made snide remarks at first, but she gave up when nobody supported her. She would not be involved in any planning even though she did have a meltdown upon learning she was invited to my wedding. According to my brother, his relationship with my ex has worsened subsequently and he feels bad for continuing along for so long. Though they are not as close now, they still talk. The problem? I finally said we are having our first child. My mom's birthday was several weeks ago. Though my first granddaughter, this is not the first grandchild. Except my sister, everyone was really delighted. My mother observed that and asked me for tea one other day. Though my sixth sense warned me not to attend, I wanted to be optimistic. When I arrived, my sister's automobile caught my first attention. Then there was my sister, her husband, my ex, and his lunch as I walked in the door. Since my childish approach has lasted for so long, they wanted to intervene. My ex said he was merely trying to be romantic, but he realizes I wouldn't value it. His mother apologized already. I should forgive her since I was only hurting his sister for wanting the best for me. I was just texting my dad, brother, hubby, and looking at my mom incredulously. My brother-in-law had the guts to tell me I was a nasty person and I should learn how to act like an adult since I am now pregnant. My mother then started reading a letter about how hurt her daughters weren't close, how my sister was wrong but she was well-intentioned, etc. My sister then read her letter, started to cry and told me essentially another form of what the others did. I sat there until my brother showed up. I said nothing to anybody. Beyond anything I have ever seen, he was furious. He took my items and informed them all he was truly disgusted and disappointed. We left and remained in his car until my dad and husband showed up. By then I was just crying and he kept apologizing. I'm not sure what occurred there, but I emailed everyone except mom, including my lawyer's contact details attached, and said I never want to be bothered by any of them ever again. Should they, I will report it to the police. Nobody has got in touch, but my dad told me from experience that my mother and sister are hysterical. They assured him they hope to fix things and for my sister to be in my baby's life, maybe even acting as a godmother. Right now my dad is living with my brother. While some family members don't, others help me. Since my sister is now following the narrative that my husband is keeping me away from my family, I have even had mutual acquaintances phone me concerned about her well-being and asking me what happened. Although I detest having my business open to the public, I did follow the public path and shared a lengthy Facebook post about everything that happened. Though it wasn't exactly planned, I believe my sister, brother-in-law, and ex are deserving of dragging. Now my mother has been inconsolable, which makes me uncomfortable, but not as horrible as she made me feel with her little intervention. A few days ago, I agreed to meet with her and set the ground rules for any future contact, including therapy, family therapy, explicit boundaries, no sharing of information about me with my sister, and separate holidays. Above all, she will definitely be cut off should she ever do anything similar once more. She is ready to do it even though she feels this is excessive. She believed it meant instant access to baby news and that it was all fixed, but I explained to her it is a process and she has to show she has changed. My dad and brother continuously apologizing for not halting their refusal to interact with my sister earlier. Since they were able to go on and flourish, we have forgiven them. Though my MIL is dubious if cutting my mom's access to her grandchild is the best course of action, my husband supports whatever I decide upon. She feels it is finally my choice. About what to do with my mom, I'm conflicted. Commenter. What is their rationale now that you are expecting? Should you quit acting out make-believe with your husband and come to see your happily ever after resides with your ex? Regarding your child, what? Will your ex and his family welcome her? Oop. Although my sister says she is not trying to bring us together anymore, I cannot take away her opportunity to be an aunt. She stated I'm a poor sister since I spend so much time with my fantastic sisters-in-law. Of course, I disagree with her. My problem is knowing what to do with mom. Commenter. She wouldn't be your best friend without you dating your ex. OOP stands for, though I wish I could tell you, I have no idea her mental process is. My spouse believes she is simply psychologically sick. The ex, He still owns the mixtapes and CDs I created for us while we were dating, which is the most ludicrous and terrifying thing. He still finds great value in those objects, which are roughly 20 years old. Commenter. I'm kind of amazed your stalker ex, and yes, I will call him that, is still in your brother's life. Said another way, hold strong with your mother. No deadlines, she must prove she can follow your guidelines. Your sister has to live with the results of her deeds. OP. To be fair to my brother, he did start to cut him off when I informed my parents I was somewhat uncomfortable with my ex always there. I lived away for college but would see my family on breaks. He also worked very hard to make my husband welcome, which degraded his relationship with my ex even more since he felt betrayed by my brother. My husband is one of my brother's closest friends nowadays. He only talks to my ex about our nephew or to avoid being nasty. Commenter. You have to understand that your mother is endorsing all of this. She knows your mom also believes it's appropriate, therefore a major reason Big Sis is ongoing this. This makes me somewhat depressed since my mother was always so friendly to my husband and now I'm questioning their whole relationship. For some background, neither Indian nor from a religious family are we. My parents were decent, polite ones. At first, they considered it to be a romantic thing, but subsequently came to see it wasn't. They pushed me to start college and all around. Now, I know my dad really helped me and my mom might have just followed along and had the same ideas as my sister. My sister suggested that we would be best friends with the brothers. Update 1, same day, 16 hours later. The modification I wanted to post but couldn't. I want to thank you for the so far great support and guidance. Since there are too many for me to personally address, I would like to add a bit more information in my remarks. I broke up with my ex when I was 18. He is 47 today. Our separation sprang from my unwillingness to be engaged or married. The fixation of my sister on wanting both of us to be best friends and brides drives her insistence. Although my mother has always been rather kind to my husband, I am starting to believe it was all a show, which makes me rather depressed. Although he has 2 children with an ex and has been with other people since the separation, my ex has never been married. Given he has only ever wanted to marry me, my sister feels that is a really romantic thing to do. I should also emphasize that his compulsive actions go beyond myself. From the grapevine, I know he was quite similar with his children's mother. Now he is focusing on me since my sister is supporting it since she wants his help in returning me to my good graces so she can be a good aunt. When I informed my parents I was somewhat uncomfortable with my ex always there, my brother did start to cut him off. I lived away for college but would see my family on breaks. He also made a very great effort to make my husband welcome, which degraded his relationship with my ex even more since he felt deceived by my brother. My husband is now among the closest friends of one of my brothers. He only talks to my ex over our nephew, the son of my sister, or to avoid being nasty. Although I suppose only my dad was in agreement, both of my parents seemed to be encouraging of my not wanting to be around my ex so much. We would enjoy quality time together, thus my mom told my dad she was making my preferred tea and cookies on the day of the tea party, but he could remain. Thinking it would be a great sentiment from my mom, my dad left to hang with my uncle. Right now he is really irate. When they met, my husband tried very hard with my sister. Now he simply dismisses her and thinks she is mentally sick. Though we don't know whether she is or not, her behavior cannot justify anything. Their official perspective is that it would be best for me to confront the core of my problems with my sister, hence they invited the ex and his mother. Furthermore, my spouse and I are from the same race. We are not really religious, neither Indian. Neither my ex nor my spouse have any financial differences. If such exists, it would benefit my husband. Finally, the circumstances infuriate my sisters-in-law, both the wife of my brother and the sisters of my spouse. My husband's sisters and he will be discussing her comment with their mother. My brother and his wife are debating permanently cutting off all communication with my mother. They would let her visit my nephews for a while in between either. The more I read, the more I believe I might have to go no contact with my mother for the benefit of my child. Thinking all their interactions were phony breaks my spouse, and he becomes even more angry that she made me doubt I was a nice person. Although I know my family still has a lot of talks to go concerning my mother, I will surely be getting a restraining order against my sister and the ex. Here is the appropriate semi-update on the current situation of my family. My mother said she knew better even after we spoke. She claimed I am a nasty person and that she will be obtaining either custody or rights pertaining to grandparents. Though I am nothing like what she describes, I still panicked, so we wrote her a letter about it. Moving permanently, my dad informed her he could stand by her terrorizing his child. Also choosing to go no contact are my brother and his wife. Though I understand it appears somewhat abrupt, I believe I understated the degree of hopelessness I experienced following the intervention. Later on, My husband advised them to consider very carefully what they valued and to be friendly and open to everything but would not raise a child in a poisonous environment. Reason 3,271,637. I love my hubby for this. My mother and her fakeness really break my hubby. She will never get anything from him, he says, which is as much retribution he wants. My MAL was informed about her comment by my husband and sisters, who also helped her to see why it was rather out of line. She is, as many of you would guess, a very devoted mother from a lovely family. My dad and brother keep atoning for any part they contributed to this. It astounds my dad that we have reached this position. For him, he claims, everything is still strange. Still, they claim they are ready to assist me in battling any foolish struggle my mother or sister might muster and back me no matter what. Update 2. I would like to thank you for the nice words and encouragement. I chose to publish it here so it wouldn't be removed as the original was. Though they are both wonderful and terrible at the same time, I am trying to keep upbeat about everything. Sitting my nephews down, my brother and his wife told them Grandma was sick and tried to hurt Auntie Diamond and the tiny cousin. Grandma might not be living with them anymore, they said, but that does not mean she loves them less. Though the kids are smart, it was really difficult. Although Auntie is no longer in their life, they do not care as they hate her, not because of me alone, but rather because she is not exactly great with them either. When she was told, my mother lost it and began asserting she had rights and she would be able to visit her grandkids. Mostly because of my brother's MIL coming to visit, my dad is looking for a permanent apartment but will stay with us until January. We have the space. He is quite depressed. He has contacted divorce attorneys, moved bank records, etc. already. My mother has been sending him innumerable emails, messages and calls, but he responds to nothing. He was advised not to block her right now by the lawyer. He thought about maybe forgiving her, but a few days after my last post here I had a significant increase in blood pressure since she chose to visit my house with his sister. Though my mom knew I didn't want her there and my sister had never visited my house, I suppose that doesn't matter now. Knowing my mom, the cleaning girl let them in. I haven't had time to let her know she was not allowed to enter anymore. I observed the automobile, while I was returning from some errands. I skipped this time as well. I phoned every relative, and my husband's sister, was the one closest by. She challenged them and warned them either they left or I would call the cops on them for trespassing. They went and I started to feel ill. When we visited the doctor, they advised me that all the excitement was not good and that I should start unwinding or else the baby would suffer. Along with my brother, uncle, and husband, my dad headed home carrying every single item he could have thought of. According to my husband, my sister was also present and kept yelling at him that he wrecked her family. My dad told my mother and sister they nearly killed the infant and he also wants not to interact with any of them once more. Though it is not happening, my sister kept messaging my brother begging for aid. Since his mother has some crazy beliefs, my nephew is losing so much of his family. Hence, I am devastated and somewhat sad for him, but it is what it is. Regarding the custody and grandparent rights my mother wishes to exercise so much, my attorney wrote her a letter declaring she harmed the kid and my health and declaring, should she continue to harass me, it will become official legal business. Using her harassing of me as justification, my brother also sent her a letter. My mother and sister have both turned down attending treatment. Although they may be mentally sick, given all of this comes to light, it is clear they have long-standing agreement. Spending holidays with my family, maintaining health, and attending therapy will be my main priorities. Update 3. Hi, I figured it would be a good fit as I had some time and had several requests for an update. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for your comments, letters, and every piece of advice since we owe you for making us even more cautious than we were. A few asked me what process we utilized to find the baby's gender. After 20 weeks, I announced it. We wanted to be sure and feel comfortable about the announcement, hence we waited so long because we had experienced a loss in the past and we were ready to share it. We were also stupid enough to believe it would be especially meaningful for my mother. I sent it to my husband after publishing, and he spent a few days reading your comments, mails and advice. We cleaned the house and fortunately discovered nothing, but we still felt somewhat vulnerable and so visited a motel with my dad. Then we discovered a tracker on the vest of my fur baby. He has a humorous vest since he is a pretty small dog and gets cold a lot. I never would have considered checking there, but we found the tracker when my dad took him around the hotel grounds. My sister approached him about me and reconciliation. We moved since I was somewhat offended. We are fortunately able to afford it. Not merely empty, we are renting our former house as well as right now. That house used to be my favorite, but today I feel it's destroyed and contaminated in some sort. Sadly, not just me but also my brother, spouse, dad, and even the family of my husband feels the same about their residents. We changed our numbers, acquired new devices, and let friends, companies, and the police know. We began family and therapeutic sessions as well. Nevertheless, I have really forgiven my dad and brother. They still feel great shame about the circumstances. We are healing as a family nevertheless. Mom and sister argue they don't need therapy and they are not wrong. My dad created a new will whereby my sister's son receives a trust fund and some inheritance, but my sister receives a nominal sum. He really is done with her. Though I felt awful for her, I resolved to concentrate on my baby. She is here. We are blessed. Since my mother is no longer with me, this is not the experience I considered. Yet many friends and relatives have really surprised us. Eventually, we were so worried that we began testing some people we knew nothing about by telling them I was about to go into labor. It worked like magic. We cut off those who were still providing information to my mother and sister. When we clarified the thinking, the rest made sense. We have been having a torrid affair because of my undying love for the baby, thus my ex, who my friends now call Bates, went around stating the baby was his. Nobody believes him now, but it caused my husband to call Bates's company and inform him of all the madness. Long story short, Bates was suspended while internal review was under progress. Given their requests for more and more information and their seeming contrition, I nearly guarantee he will be let go. My mother has searched for us, but none of the people who know of our whereabouts have contacted her either. Her dad's attorney wrote her a letter saying that since she is unstable, all letters will now go via attorneys. Just my dad and myself, since I felt so horrible for him being by himself. I still feel terrible even though he has assured me he will be all right and that nothing is my fault. In the world, he has been the best diaper changer, feeder, and babysitter. As usual, my nephews are loving. My dad even visited the son of my sister. She started creating films threatening to injure herself if my husband stopped isolating her from the family, thus this came about. She seems to have stopped it when my dad emailed her regarding visiting her son and advised her he would call the police about her threats. Finally, someone mentioned that I gave Bates false hope. That cannot be more far from reality. I spent years uncomfortable since I assumed he would move on. After I spoke out and saw my husband, I spent a lot of time berating my sister over it. I married after my sister as I had a very long engagement. Though I still love my mother and sister, I put a good life for my family and me over that affection. Over this entire process, I have come across a great deal of compassion, love and loyalty. Strange as it sounds, I feel happy that all of this exploded. Hopefully, it is not too tangy. Many hugs from me. Update 4. My dad moved into the guest house when we formally settled into a new house. We concluded that although it would be great for him to be with us, we all still need our space after many conversations, in and outside of therapy. We will be choosing what to do with the previous place later. We are still renting it now. About 3 times a week now, my dad has grandchildren all gathered around. She refuses to allow him to have the child until she knows where he lives, which, to be fair, is a typical thing. But considering she is insane, we do not want her around. He still needs to see my sister's child separately. Mom objected to the lawyers about how unjust it is. Though little she can do about it, my dad still gets to visit every grandchild. My dad informed me he had a confession around a month ago and, dear reader, my stomach started hurting. She still lets him see me since he pays for my nephew's, sister's child, tuition and babysitting. Not wanting to keep secrets, he felt so bad for hiding it. I told him to relax and that there was nothing wrong with it. My dad received an email on Mother's Day with a link to an Instagram account with a somber video on my mother and how most of her family has deserted her, as well as how much of a saint my sister is for being there for her. Though I just forwarded it to the attorney, it was truly pitiful and infuriated me. Dad formally asked for divorce in May, and the procedure is still underway. I believe that's final as my dad said he would sooner drink bleach than go back to her and my mom insists he is mistaken. My dad was given Father's Day by my brother and husband, who had a great time. That day, my sister uploaded a lot of items, but we wanted Dad to enjoy the day, hence we blocked him from ever knowing about it. They also went to a hotel, got a suite, and set up a tent in the middle area for the kids and a little tippy for the infant on a camping trip with them. To be honest, one of the finest things I've ever done is have a baby. Witnessing my husband be the wonderful father I knew would make me very happy. Though it is demanding, we have a lot of help. I have my rocks at my side, thus I am thankful beyond everything. My sisters-in-law and I now have a little calendar for sharing age-appropriate activities for the children. If they so want, we let them know they do not need to hang out with individuals they dislike and that their voices count. We have tiny get-togethers, brunches, etc. Right now, they are all fixated on the infant and claim to be her defenders. To be honest, without my sister present, family time is now a delight rather than a chore. She simply saps the enthusiasm from the room. I know it's awful to say. Along with staying in the guest room roughly once a week, my meal enjoys spending time with the baby. She replied gently that she wanted nothing from the infant for sleepovers or anything. She respects and listens to me, and sure, I have broken down occasionally as I miss my mom a lot. I miss the mother I had, or believed I had, not the one who informed me I would be a nasty woman or awful mother. According to my therapist, it's a marathon and to keep the positive first. About good, Bates was let go. Not only that, but his industry's reputation suffered nuclear-level harm as well. So was his brother's, but he still has his job as far as I know, since Bill is not in an industry that gives reputation much thought. About his hurt, how I'm denying him what is his, and how my husband is so intimidated by him that he had to go and professionally destroy him since he cannot ruin anything else, Bates sent me a 12-page, double-sided, single-spaced letter. I say seems as my lawyer reviewed it and sent me a synopsis. I did not read it. The grapevine also told me, no, I don't ask anyone, they just tell me since they know he is stalking me, that the mother of his children relocated and he didn't even care and stated it was for the best. This man wants to play family with the baby and me and hardly gives his children any thought. Mommy already let him move back in with her, hence sadly he won't be homeless or anything. I doubt he will learn anything from this. Not the most flashy update, but rather just what is. Oh, and with my dad's okay, my spouse burnt or donated every single item my mom or parents handed him. Even with memories, he believes, life is too short to allow her room in his life. Commenter. I am rather happy you are visiting all that with the intact good portions of your family. I appreciate Bates is a nasty guy, but has he ever done anything relevant or connected to his work? I truly don't see the firing component. OOP. It's a really close-knit one. And when you have a bad reputation, it shocks you. He is not giving up his business. Before this, he was considered as a good but detached feminist single dad. He even informed certain colleagues that I stayed with him for more than our scheduled visit. Commenter. OOP, I have respect and am sorry for what you faced. I am reading your entire story from the best of Reddit from my house in India at 1:30 a.m. As healthy and pleasant as you both are, I hope your child develops to be as well. Also, I hope this whole mess ends soon so you may be back with your mother following the end of her XF dream. Respect you, keep fighting. OOP. That's a great attitude, but I will never chat to my mom once more. I miss her a lot. I shed a lot of tears. The baby deserves the greatest family we can offer, and my mother is not part of it. She is not the person I thought she was. Though I have to safeguard the baby, it hurts. New update. Long time, no saw. Though first I want to thank you for all of your comments and letters. I have some updates for you. I value it greatly as every time I log into this account I am inundated with essentially wonderful stuff. Nobody will probably read this, but for those that want updates, they are mostly decent. Let's get right on with that out of the way. Now, following several arguments and outbursts from my mother, my parents are divorced. That is it, kept the house and received a lump payment. We are all quite thrilled for my dad, who seems like a new man. A little flashback. We didn't terminate our cleaning lady during all the hoopla. This woman had been serving my husband's family for decades, and her absence from work due to what her insane relatives did caused great anxiety in me. We are not slobs either, and she is not kneeling or anything like that polishing floors. In any case, my dad told her she was on paid vacation till we moved into a new house and to kindly wait for us should she wish. She was not fired at all. Her family was likewise really delighted about it. Because they were so appreciative of what he was doing for them, my dad occasionally started gathering food and goods from them. Well, my dad is currently seeing her. Her sister runs her own nail business. She is a really beautiful woman who has grown children, hence she can relate to the dynamics occurring occasionally. She is happy with him as he has been quite clear that he is neither moving or getting married. She values her independence. When her mother learned about his new relationship, she almost passed out. She kept claiming it was a late midlife crisis and he had to turn to be a sugar dad. I obviously heard this since I don't interact with her, but last I heard she is struggling. She depends on my dad and struggles as she was never adept in budgeting. She had to stop making insane purchases. My dad is not assisting my sister with money anymore, hence she is also suffering. You see, he was ready to stay on helping for my nephew's benefit, but then things became very difficult. Starting to nickname my child an affair baby, my nephew said she is not with her own father. Saying they were only he, not my kids' cousins, he pushed one of my nephews on my husband's side during a birthday party, calling my other nephews delusional. The children were bewildered and thus very confused, but they told an adult right away. Dad spoke with him, but he kept repeating it. When he spoke with my sister, she claimed she had no way to stop a child from speaking the truth and that not all children always do. He is severing them, he informs her till something changes. She sobbed and fretted, but she also was really tenacious. My nephew attends public school now since my spouse forced my dad to cut them off. Bates, well, he is still without work. I know I was vague about it, but some of it had to do with stalking, irony much, and he worked in a field connected to vulnerable women. He was therefore sacked for this. The company he worked for didn't want this all over them. He has sent 2 more very long, handwritten, rambling letters. As he only has my lawyer's address, guess who has the honor of reading, compiling and submitting those rams? My lawyer is a champ, I love him. Apart from that and the rumors, I have not had any negative experiences involving him except one. A random woman approached me at the grocery shop to find out whether my child was Bates's baby. I was startled and froze. She stated he had a picture of us on his page when I asked her what she was on, and I should feel bad for hurting such a decent man. Turns out he is still following the story that my child is his and that I loved him so greatly. That is all old news. The picture comment really startled me the most. There is nothing public or like that about this picture. That is it. It was emailed once to a family group. I told my husband right away, and he got furious but under control. We made the decision to smoke the rat. To cut a long tale short, my dad's 2 sisters were providing information to my mother. Though he was somewhat let down, my dad had no questions about cutting them off. They still implore him to meet with them once more. His family and mine are doing fantastic. We have seen them frequently and have spent some family holidays since the last update. They also hardly interact with my sister and mother. Since it turns out she was not a fan of our mom but preserved the peace, my SIL is actually quite glad about it. Also quite beautiful are my in-laws. She is over the moon about us allowing male overnight babysitting now. Her grandchildren are all happy to be with her. Sometimes she has all of them under one roof. She used to be a flight attendant, hence their preferred game is to act like an airline. We don't worry as they love her generally and we know she is nice with our children. My mother kept stalking her, so she had to make her socials private. She prepared her own bed, hence I am sure she is quite jealous. Last but not least, my hubby keeps me sane even in small matters. We wonder whether we ought to adopt another baby or even have one. We still have to decide, but we have a tremendous support network and the advantage to have these talks. I still long greatly for my mother. When I know there are milestones I can no longer enjoy with her, I occasionally cry. Yet, she is a bad person. Thus the safety of my family comes first. Last interesting tidbit. They went camping last Father's Day. It was excellent save from some poorly placed sunburns and bug bites. My wife's descent, from new job to infidelity, drugs, and tragedy. How our marriage unraveled in just 4.5 months. 4 and 5 months ago, my 37F wife landed a new job. She also befriended some recently arrived people. I, 36M, didn't particularly enjoy them. They were all SJW types, professional victims, hard-bitten feminists. These ladies will scream at you for either not opening the door for them or opening it for them. Neither way is a winner either. I mostly laughed it off at first, but over the past 2 months I observed some unsettling changes in my wife. Married for 11 years, we have 2 children, 10F and 8M. It continued to get worse. She would accuse me of all kinds of stupidity, including that I was born evil since traditionally men subjugated women. Everything I did for her, things she would usually value, became justification for a conflict. It all amounted to garbage. I tried to be composed. Usually, these debates would finish with me stating something like, "I haven't done anything harmful toward you. I am only guilty of loving you." Usually it would send her murmurs, and the next day she would be back attempting the same thing with somewhat different justifications. About 5 weeks ago, I had a strong sense of things being quite wrong. She returned late at night without informing me of her delay. Her phone was unreachable to me. She behaved aloofly and was rather drunk. She dismissively told me the next day that I read too much into things and that I was being domineering. This repeated a few more times. Though I believed she had erased a lot of her messages, I tried to snoop on her phone but couldn't find anything conclusive. I did come across a post among one of her new acquaintances talking about how she would approach me about an open relationship. Her adultery was what my gut feeling was telling me right away. My wife mentioned in the thread she would discuss it with me on what is currently the second Monday of December. Christmas is being celebrated with my children among their grandparents. We were supposed to be joining them today. She asks me what I think of an open relationship anyway, trying to initiate this discussion during breakfast like it's simply a thought out of the blue. Fortunately, I knew how to be ready. I had already started recording. Having been reading a lot on Reddit, I understood there was absolutely no way to undo this. Getting out of this with some shred of pride and self-esteem intact was my best hoped result. From now on, my priorities are only safeguarding the kids and myself. I stayed silent, neither yelling or screaming. I entered jaw-clenched interrogation mode straightforwardly. She was all smug up until this point, but it vanished right away when she noticed my expression. Me. Who is she? She. What do you mean? She attempts to project innocence, as though she doesn't know. Me. Don't treat me like an idiot if you wish to have this talk with me. At least you are sincere. Should you be dishonest, what good is this conversation for? She. What do you mean? Me. We cannot have the conversation you wish about our relationship if you lie to me right now. You seem to be hiding something, clearly. Who then is the man you fucking? She. I am not. Me. Oh my God, there's more than one. She exclaimed, Me. Don't. Just avoid lying, fucking. You have simply completely undermined my faith in you. You lie, as I can tell. I divorce you or you are honest and we work through this. Right now our marriage is over. Not arguments, not debate, not nothing. Exactly divorce. Do you realize? She said, but. Me. Say it. Do you follow? Do you realize I would divorce you if you lie? Say it like that. Do you realize I already know a great deal? You seem to me like a book. Should I find you lying, we are off. Tell me you have an understanding. She says, I understand. She then relates to me about 2 one-night stands she went on with friends. I probe their names, whether they are married, if she wore protection, etc. Both of them are married males having children. Then she tells me she intends to pursue this since it's beneficial for her and I have no right to control her. She also tells me she intends to sleep with a colleague at work. Fuck, what the fuck? I also ask about the colleague. His name is his wife's. He is married but, as she says, in an open relationship as she wants us to be in. She says she will arrange for some of her friends to see me. One of them seems to be rather keen. In actual fuck, what the hell? Having seen this friend, I would not touch her with a barge pole. I say to her I have little interest. She shows me the sequence to open her phone when I ask for it. I closed myself in my office while she went to the toilet. She flips out. While she was back pounding on the door, I ran recovery software on the phone for deleted stuff and came over a lot of agonizing proof. 30 minutes later, I also downloaded a spying tool from an online vendor. I handed her the phone when I got out and urged her to go. She persisted in her arguments. I mainly answered with single words. Over all of this, she hardly seemed regretful. She was ranting at me that I was behaving controlling, holding her back like men always kept women back, that I never loved her, that she had every right to do this, that she expected me to just accept this, that it wasn't a big issue, etc. I refrained from responding. I really scarcely spoke at all. I simply packed her belongings while she whirled, calling at me. I found myself at the front door, patiently waiting till she ran out of steam. She grudgingly headed to her parents' house at last. I informed her she was single now so she could do whatever she wanted as she was headed down the stairs. I could not control her anymore. In January my lawyer would be in touch. I just slammed and shut the door as she turned to answer. Later on, I observed as she talked about it among her friends. They were telling her that she deserved better than me, that there were empty threats from my side, that she was strong and demanding what she was entitled to, that I wouldn't follow through. You want to gamble? They're telling her that she could just accuse me of domestic violence if necessary. Frightened me greatly. One of them accused her ex-husband of abuse, then went to detail how she had screwed over him and taken everything from him. Right now, I have cameras ordered for my residence. I realize I have to log everything now. Simply said, what I was seeing defied belief. I have never, ever threatened her in whatsoever capacity. She then began massaging her AP to a line. They decided to convene at a hotel. I felt somewhat shocked. I searched the internet for AP's wife. It wasn't too long. I told her everything, including the continuous hotel activities, and got her to agree to me as a friend on Facebook. She hung up grateful to me. 2 hours later I received a video from her. She confronted them when she went to the motel. From the yelling, this wasn't the first time her husband had lied. You're emptying, asshole. Are you doing this to me once more? To the young ones once more? We were done if you ever did this again. I told you, she screamed, then she entered the room and captured my wife getting ready on the side of the bed. That first time, I started to throw. The wife of the AP smacked her and cursed her out. I messaged my wife to let her know I watched the hotel's video and that I never want her close by ever. She seems to view our interactions as some kind of pissing competition, in which case she, in her perspective, is winning. She is absolutely insane. I find nothing comprehensible. She seems to be detached from reality and to not fully grasp that we are separating. I told her relatives in the WhatsApp group of my wife that her adultery is the reason we are divorcing. Before cutting off from the gathering, I thanked them for making me welcome and part of the family. From her side, I have had a few calls and messages. I haven't read them or replied. Simply said, I lack the will for it. I told my folks everything when I phoned them. My father messaged my wife informing her she would not be welcome for Christmas. Right now I'm at my parents' place and spoke with my boss. He is allowing me time off till mid-January to straighten things out. I have been observing my wife's progressively hysterical conversations with her new acquaintances. My wife doesn't think she has lost her family, that her marriage is over, or that her AP doesn't really give a damn about her. She has messaged me a lot and even visited my parents' house requesting to be let to celebrate Christmas with us. Should she refuse to go, my father threatened to contact the police. I'm Googling divorce attorneys right now, crying my soul out. Though I believe I have been in shock, once I arrived at my parents' house the agony really hit me. Simply said, I find no logical sense to it. Reading their conversations and talking with her hurts me so much. I answered her text just twice. The first? What you say has no bearing. I don't know your name. You do not represent my wife. My wife never would have smiled while destroying my heart and soul. We are going to get divorced. You have no influence or authority to demand anything from me ever again. What you say or wish matters not to me. We are done here. The second, like I said, you are not my wife. You are not known to me. My wife would never subject our kids to the misery of growing up in a damaged household. Whichever you are, you appear to be pleased with your work. My dearest friend, my wife, was lovely, compassionate, and thoughtful. You are an abomination of self-obsessions and self-absorptions. The last message stopped the others. At times the suffering is quite intolerable. I wish none of this occurred. Though I wish I could get back with her like previously, I simply cannot do that to myself. The worst Christmas I have ever had. Though I couldn't help myself, I told the children mommy wants no more children. She wants to be with other men and knows we will divorce. They are inevitably unhappy. Luckily, I have my parents here to assist. They treat them with love and affection while I am a total wreck. Though I am not going back to her ever, I will strive to get back on my feet for the sake of my children. I wish I had waited till after Christmas so I could straightforwardly enter counseling. I immediately blurted it out when they inquired when their mother would visit. I have no idea what happened. Should I return to her, I would never be able to see myself in the mirror. Her actions clearly show unacceptably disdain and callousness. I'm gone. Simply said, I find this incomprehensible. Why should she assume she could demand anything from me right now? Is she psychologically sick or anything else? I apologize for the rambling diatribe. I simply needed to let things out. Edit, I am good with monitoring. I spoke with a friend's attorney, who is familiar with my membership comes with the phone. I own it. I'm good since my wife is using it. I own it in the subscription, so monitoring my own gear is not prohibited. Update 1. Since I last wrote, then a lot has changed. Though the fact is I've been a pitiful, crying mess since I last posted, I wish I could own it. My wife's conversations with her friends captured me in some kind of obsession. These conversations revealed a lot of crazy and nasty comments. Ultimately though, it was when my STBXW detailed in very harsh terms how her marriage and particularly her children were a burden in her life, that she had been deprived of the opportunity to be a successful woman living up to her full potential. She spoke of me, her spouse, how I was a repressive agent preventing her from leading a happy life. She lacked a lucrative profession, plenty of casual sex, etc., mostly due to her family. I broke right now. It was too much for me. I read and reread every line of every email and conversation I had over and over again for the next 30-ish hours. Looking back, she omitted any specifics about our actual burden or oppressive behavior. It was just general remarks without any references or proof. I have never stopped her from doing anything, actually. For practically everything I pay for. Her part-time job's minimum pay would not be sufficient for anyone. Actually, even if she would constantly drop out halfway through, I have encouraged her interests, desires, and aspirations even if she did foolish actions in class. Every day I made sure to tell her I loved her and thanked all she did for the family. I would take her out, romance her, be at her side anytime she needed me. If this is oppression, then I would like some, kindly. Still, I digress. I passed out once, at some point during reading. My 3 closest buddies were in the kitchen with Dad cooking dinner when I woke up. These guys have been in my life since childhood. We'll call them Frank, Bob, and Mike. Having invited them, my dad brought them up to date. I quickly broke down once more, and until Friday evening I was entirely absent. His ex-military friend Mike lost his left arm under the elbow. Actually, we were all there for him during his recovery. His wife left him. Fortunately, they did not have any kids. Mike did fine. He adopted 2 children and acquired a really nice girlfriend a few years ago. He arranged a Zoom conversation with his psychotherapist, who supported him along his rehabilitation. He greatly helped me to make sense of my emotional situation. Though he focused on amputees, he told me most wives unfortunately flee after their husbands are maimed, and his experiences and lessons really helped me. Actually, he asked me to see my soul, identity and spiritual being as largely related to my marriage and husbandly responsibilities. That part is dead now. Like an amputee will experience phantom pain in a missing limb, I will experience phantom agony from the dead part of my identity. We talked for hours, and since then I have been consistently better. Bob works in a security company as an executive. He's rather well off. I don't really know what he does, but he never talks much about his job. Sunday morning, I was chatting with a lawyer I could never in my wildest thoughts ever afford to even talk to after Bob contacted some law firms on retainer for the company. Bob was bullied a lot and has always been a major geek. He assured me he would pay the bill, I should not worry about it. Having finally been able to pay me back for the beatings I often gave him, so disrupting his bullies, made him delighted. Married with 7 children, Frank teaches in a private school for youngsters. Exactly, 7. To death, my children just love him and his family. Frank has been keeping an eye on my children's welfare and needs while I recover and straighten things out. Yesterday was a fairly busy day. Early in the morning it began with an STD screening. The bitch handed me chlamydia, another 6-month screening recommendation. When I found out, my self-pity party changed to sheer fucking wrath. That is me. On gloves off. Completely customized. If I could get away with it, I would offer her nothing. The attorney found the ex-husband of my wife's feminist buddy who boasted about screwing him over. It seemed really simple using the court records. I never would have given that any thought either. I conferred with him on WhatsApp. He gave me many thanks, but he also told me about what this harpist did for him. I can now project from my STBXW what to expect. It turned out to be terrible. Following our conversation, I was ready for a fight. I am getting ready for battle. Hearing how he had been homeless and how he scarcely had seen his children in 4 years, all based on his ex-wife's lies, was painful. Though I am at a disadvantage as a man in the judicial system, I will make sure I have loads of proof. Due in great part for our son's benefit, my lawyer advised a preemptive strike using a restraining order based on her harsh and aggressive remarks about men in general. I'm seeking full custody as growing up in a home with an openly anti-male parental figure is clearly very detrimental. I advise the attorney to start straight away. She expects my wife to be served with the restraining order today. Using Zoom, I spoke with my STBX. Remember that she showed up at the door to argue with my dad and hasn't contacted me at all. She doesn't seem to care about any of us as she hasn't contacted the kids or anyone else either. The call was utterly strange. She clearly was attempting to appear her best, she was fully done up with great cleavage. I have not seen her looking that polished for years. She tried to get me off into a fight to make me enraged during the whole chat. I cooled myself rather well. My attorney had advised on what to ask for. Apparently, if efforts are made for a peaceful divorce before seeking a contentious divorce, things go really well. I had the call under recording. I even mentioned to her I was. My STBXW turned out not to be disappointing. She began with this ridiculous claim that there are 2 kinds of penises. One type that shrinks and increases depending on whether they are erect or not, and another type roughly the same size whether they are erect or not. What exactly in the fuck? Someone opens a call to their husband like that? She then pondered on how excited she was about the end of the present limitations so she could go out and personally study this more. I said simply that I was only interested in talking about our divorce. I had no interest in her interests. She became quite nasty when I refrained from latching on the bait as she intended. She muted herself once, telling me she was off to the bathroom. I then observed her conferring with her friends about what she could do to me. She cursed me just for being a male multiple times over the call. I still had this weird sensation that she was seeing this as some sort of game, that she was in control, and that I had no other choice except to put up, shut down, and give in to everything she wanted. We made no improvement on our actual divorce, so I came to the conclusion, okay, great, a contentious divorce it is then. You handed me chlamydia, by the way, and unlike you, I haven't been sleeping with anyone else, hence you better get yourself to the doctor. She simply scowled at me, saying, "You're right, I don't believe you. I no longer care. I really have no idea at all what is going on with her at this point." The lawyer was startled, to say the least, when I sent her the recording. At this point, everyone finds my wife crazy. She is, perhaps. I can really utilize the chat logs also in court, as I own her phone and the subscription. As it turns out, monitoring my own gadget as much as I choose is completely lawful. The Harpies were debating fiercely following our summons, but I could at last set it aside. What they discuss doesn't matter to me anymore. Unless something I haven't told them about, my attorney is sure we will win this thing. There we are then. Although it still hurts, at this stage I may consider it as phantom pain. I am going for the jugular. No prisoners, have given up feeling guilty about myself. I have to look after my children and myself. I am fine, my children will be too. I will make sure they receive as much therapy as they demand. My STBXW will shortly be a memory, and I will begin to create a new, better life. Edit. She didn't tell me, but I discovered today she knew about the chlamydia and underwent treatment. Bitch. Fuck. She was smiling and kissing her new buddies about it. Update 2. I receive a lot of comments like I am somehow winning or strong or in some other sense going out on top. When I go over my postings, I can see that my resentment of the circumstances filters through, and I could seem too calm and certain of myself. To be honest, I am not. I want this never to have happened. As the children mature and begin their own life, I wish my family was still together and that I had a long, lazy, comfortable life ahead of me with my wife. Here none of anyone is the winner. The whole train is burning in the ditch. My wife has gone off the rails. I'm not sure her problem is. She is acting as though nothing is amiss, yet refuses to see a medical practitioner for probable mental problems. She seems not to be regretful or guilty. She behaves as though I'm irrational for not simply embracing everything she wants. Not even the children have spoken since D-Day. I have to, so I am divorcing her, acting and forward separating our life. She has left me without options. By now, there is no going back. I wish so much this wasn't absolutely required. I weep myself to sleep every night for my personal loss and the knowledge that my children will now grow up in a shattered family. I can never trust her ever again. The fact that my children, in truth, no longer have a functional relationship with their mother hurts as well. From your child's perspective, why does mommy not want to see me anymore? She loves me, not sure. How the devil do you respond to that? Please let me know if anyone knows. I sure as hell don't. Every day I get up and tell myself that my heart is already shattered into so many broken pieces that it cannot ever mend. Only to be proven incorrect all day, every day. She doesn't care. My wife still doesn't know I can see her messages. She is quite sure that I would never leave her and that my response to her behavior is completely irrational. She continues to disparage me, our marriage, and our children around her acquaintances. Why she hates us so much is beyond me. None of the things she charges us of doing to her pals has come true. My attorney secured a temporary restraining order against her, as I already noted. Yesterday morning there was a hearing. Since no further direct threats were reported, it was not extended. Using her knowledge of my infection as a threat to try to have her agree to an unquestionable divorce, my attorney advised I hope we could split reasonably using a logical approach. I always assume the worst possible outcome and detest the fact I have to view her as the adversary. I would be able to live with her if she wanted to leave me, but why would I have to be pushed into this somewhat hostile process? Why does she want to damage the individuals who used to love her as much as feasible during the process? From this, what likely benefits she could get? I would value any analysis on this. Simply said, it makes no sense to me. Should I visit court, I most likely will have to pay her a lump payment for the equity in our house, etc. Since she shows little interest in the kids, I'm hoping I will gain custody of them should it get to court. I will most likely not be liable for alimony either. My attorney advised us to try to get her agreement for a friendly divorce. I agreed. Perhaps this week we can meet with my STBXW and her representative. The ex-husband who fell for the lying harpist stayed New Year's Eve with the kids and myself. It is simply amazing how unfairly the legal system treats fathers. Now, should we go to court? I have no fantasies of a fair procedure. His ex lied her head off. The court simply accepted it as reality without any evidence at all. Not since has he seen his children. He almost buckled under the pressure of paying irrational amounts of child support and alimony. He had been musing of permanently calling off things. He has hope again with the fresh data he gets from me. Together, we spoke with my lawyer. She advises him to sit on the evidence until my wife's and her counsel's meeting. If he acts right now, it will demonstrate to us that we have access to all their communications. My lawyer wants to complete the divorce between my wife and me as quickly as feasible and as seamlessly as possible. Right now, I only hope I can get away from her. Should she choose to fight, it may stretch on for an endless period and cause great anguish. All I need is freedom. If I schedule a meeting or if we proceed straight to a contested procedure in court, I will post an update. Update 3. Sadly, strange circumstances still exist. Yesterday afternoon was my meeting with my STBXW and lawyer. She stated she neither had nor needed a lawyer, showed up 30 minutes late and omitted bringing one. Rather, she brought one of her new harp buddies, who was under sensation till following the hearing. My attorney had given me rather clear directions on behavior. I was not to respond negatively to whatever they said. If they approached me, I was to answer in a non-confrontational way or, if at all possible, favorably. I had to keep my mouth shut entirely if my lawyer laid one or both of her hands flat on the table. So they arrived late without masks, naturally. My STBXW followed the harp censor and tried to offend me and wind me in each manner she could have thought of. My attorney tried to start the conversation on the current topic, our divorce, but they were just fooling about. Many times they chuckled at their own disparaging remarks directed toward me. Watching it made one truly disgusted. My wife still thinks this is all a hoax, hence it is obvious that I cannot divorce her. Only she, in her opinion, can divorce me, only if she so chooses. Should she do, she expects she will have everything. I sat there wondering, what the fuck is it going on? I said nothing of much significance. I answered just a few times, and my responses fit, yes, you're probably right, or I really don't know. At last they ran out of steam, and my attorney got the word in and began to present the suggested amicable divorce settlement. She first claimed that I would pay my wife a sizable lump sum of $60,000 for the equity in the property, investments, etc., and that I was ready to be giving for a fast, peaceful resolution. Before my STBXW became all enthralled, coupled with her harp pal pushed on by the horrific-looking harp next to her, my lawyer hardly finished the sentence. Where would my STBXW want to sign? Several times my attorney inquired whether my STBXW wanted to sign straight away without first reviewing the rest of the agreement. No, she said. She began mentioning their desire to get to the pub and when she may anticipate getting the money. My attorney thus summoned someone in, muttered something to them, and there was a frenzy of action. We were asked to sign 2 copies when an older woman requested our identity paperwork. The elderly lady stamped it after we were done. I subsequently learned she was a notary. Almost poised on the palm of her hand at this moment, my attorney thanked my STBXW and the harp and said to them we were done. My wife dropped off without even carrying her copy of the agreement with her. She left it on the table. Looking at her flat hands and at me, my lawyer examined clearly. She wanted me to keep quiet while they were still inside the building. My lawyer smiled at me and said, "Congratulations," when we could see them crossing the parking lot. She then went into great detail on how this was the strangest session she had ever attended for a negotiated divorce. She informed me she will forward the copy of my STBXW to her upon a hearing before the judge or, should she obtain a lawyer requesting it. It was buried in my lawyer's drawer till then. On the surface then I seemed to be going through this divorce a lot more easily than I first imagined. My STBXW can still fight this and get legal counsel. She would try to call in every conceivable favor she could think of to get me a hearing with a judge as quickly as possible, probably by video conference, my lawyer advised me. After the advice I received on Reddit, I also hired a PI. Yesterday, he showed pictures of my wife kissing 2 separate people at 2 different bars. She then checked into a hotel with one of them. I have a lot of proof stacked up should I need it. If such comes to pass, I simply hope it is sufficient. Just $60K and I'm free. My wife agreed to provide me complete custody, only a one-time payment, no spousal maintenance, nothing. I simply have to find the money now. I have a strategy, and Bob volunteered to front me the whole sum I should need. I still don't sense this as being real. I completely expect her to pull the "here's my aggressive lawyer and I'm accusing you of molesting the kids and domestic abuse" to trick out of her hat. My attorney advised me to pay for everything I always pay for, keep a very low profile, and not even gently rock the boat. The advice is to simply wait, avoid talking to anyone we both know. React to nothing, basically zero initiative until the hearing. I only have to remain patient and hope for the best right now. Update 4. Therefore, Yesterday was the hearing. I consider myself to be essentially divorced. The paperwork will take 4 to 6 months to be official, but at this stage essentially nothing anyone can do to alter the result. My wife's and my own stopping it jointly is the only alternative. I am really fucking weary. I haven't slept in. I'm not sure how many days, hence if I'm somewhat erratic, I'm sorry. I simply have to clear this all out. I have to blow off some. After I type everything out, hopefully I will be able to fall asleep. 12 days after turning in the documentation, my great attorney scheduled an early hearing. She certainly made some favors calls on this one. I am straying from the path. It has been crazy from the weekend forward to today. Many police personnel appeared at my door early Friday morning with a warrant to search the house. I felt somewhat perplexed. Concerned for the children, I asked whether I could bring them outside while they conducted their search. Thank goodness they agreed to that. They hardly told me anything, although I did get a copy of the warrant. I was so rocked that I cannot really make any sense of it. Everybody who claimed that the behavior of my ex-wife was most likely drug-related was correct. One may say that drugs at least had a part in this. The police started utterly destroying my residence. When I phoned my attorney, she spoke with them. Unfortunately, at the time there was nothing that could be done since the warrant was current. Though I never gave it any thought at the time, I now have cameras all around in case I get falsely accused. I have sound and videos covering everything. Should I wish, I may possibly file a claim later. To be really honest, I'm not sure whether I have the will or energy for it. Perhaps I will simply mark a line over it and carry on. Then my ex and her 3 harp buddies drove my car while drunk and high, slamming into a house at great speed. I knew nothing then. They all had narcotics in and on their bodies, they were all intoxicated and they all were detained. The crash treated them really roughly. The passenger seat occupant is in critical condition. They have no idea whether she will even make it. Let us call her Henrietta, the lead harpist who boasted about lying about her ex-husband in court and screwing over. Let us call her ex-husband Henry. I now live somewhat close to him. Thank goodness the search turned up nothing. I said that my ex moves with her parents. She no longer resides here. I have no idea what she is doing. No, I never let Henrietta use my car, etc. I simply collapsed when I returned to the house. Everything was absolutely destroyed. I suppose it was just the last straw. I could only think of calling my dad, who brought the kids and me home to remain with my mother. While I was crying on the back porch, eating my mom's incredible comfort food, feeling bad about myself, my dad gathered a huge gathering including 26 friends and family. They restored and cleaned my house totally. They cleaned every room, including clothes, dishes, furniture, even the walls and ceiling. Never has it been this tidy. They even corrected all the minor issues, such wobbly door hinges, etc. I simply couldn't fathom they would treat me in such a manner. How I can ever pay them back is unknown. Thanks to my friends and family, during the weekend I went from feeling suicidal to really good. Henrietta's residence revealed more drugs, and her partner was absent, no babysitter either, just the kids alone. CPS picked the children, and on Saturday Henry was granted temporary emergency custody after showing the judge the chat logs together with evidence of abandonment and drug heaps. He was granted custody really easily. Henry has scarcely seen his children for the past 5 years. He is over the moon delighted. He had been gathering funds to fight Henrietta in court at the time. He still has to visit court to finalize things, but right now the chances are really favorable. Everyone believes Henrietta will have to serve time. If her companion misses it, most likely it will be serious time. Henry will next try for recompense for all the bullshit Henrietta put him through and child support. Though he isn't expecting much on this, to be honest I believe he doesn't want to waste his time battling in court. He wants to be with his children to see to it they lead happy lives. Henrietta has been somewhat negligent toward them, quite obviously. Bob has been fantastic and arranged Henry's renting flat through a buddy. I now understand that concerning Bob's personal or professional life, I know absolutely nothing. I am going to correct that. Still, I find myself off course once more. Driven off the road and into a house, Henrietta was behind the wheel. They were all somewhat damaged, and given the circumstances, the drugs and the alcohol, search warrants were issued for everyone's house. My ex still uses my house as her residence. I made the decision on Sunday to sell this house and start living far away immediately. I fear this will most likely recur. She called me on Sunday from her parents. Their residence underwent search as well. Saturday they visited their daughter in jail, and they no longer believe anything she says to them. Long story short, she has been lying to them about everything. They came over to discuss on Sunday. She told them she was staying with me and that we were trying to work things out. The evenings she has been out partying and cheating. They knew nothing about what she had done to the kids or herself or what was really happening. She admitted she cheated, but she basically told them it was a one-time intoxicated error. My wife contacted me Monday trying to convince me to post bail. Her parents have already told her no. It is $15,000. Following our conversation, my attorney created some documentation declaring that the bond is deducted from the settlement until she shows up for court and it is released. Her mother was listed in the agreement as the caretaker of the leftover sum. My lawyer wanted me to get my wife out as she wanted her to have no justification for skipping the hearing. My ex signed as she had no options. Monday afternoon she was let go. Her parents tell me she refused to follow their criteria for her to continue living there, terms like ceasing drugs, committing to rehab, adopting an open everything policy, abandoning the bad pals, etc. She supposedly left their residence Tuesday to hang around with some of her new buddies. She missed the hearing. After presenting the judge everything, including the incidents over the weekend, I will have complete custody. The agreement we signed guides the settlement. Just 30 minutes, it was quick. Although it will take 4 to 6 months to pass the paper mill, this is actually done. Not really much can be done to stop this now. That takes us to now. I couldn't seem to go to sleep. Everyone was praising me and acting as though I had a significant triumph, but sure as hell doesn't feel like I won anything. Right now, this is only suffering. I still find great love for my wife. I am sure it is over and that there is no going back. She was my best friend. My soulmate up until lately. And even if I feel my love for her has been fatally damaged, it still aches like a motherfucker. In this there are no winners. I lose, so does my wife. My children lose. Not really have the words. I feel as though I should be celebrating that I lost both of my legs, yet since I acted, one of my legs could have been cut below the knee while the other remained cut above. It seems almost like that when people compliment me. Like they are praising me for saving half a kneecap while losing both of my legs. I thus cannot really sleep, and when I do I am caught in horrible dreams that rouse me covered in cold perspiration. I apologize, I am just grumbling a little here. Still, the hospital called today to let me know my ex is hospitalized. She still is on my health insurance, and I remain her emergency contact. She will have to remain for observation for a few days. She has lost some teeth and damaged her jaw. When I got there, it turns out some of her new friends had rather brutally beat her up. I brought her parents. From my wife's phone, word came out that Henry had chat logs of Henrietta boasting about what she had done to Henry. They thrashed my wife and kicked her out believing she had given the logs to Henry. She still doesn't seem to realize that I have access to check her phone, quite amazing. Until I get the paperwork in hand, I will continue to pay for insurance, her phone etc., just as I do now. I simply won't believe it until I can see it right before me. At the moment she has nothing. Could she perhaps return home? She asked. I said simply, no way in hell. Unless she cleans and keeps clean for at least 1 year, her mother is not giving her 1 penny. They offered her to live with them under the former tight restrictions. I find it difficult to picture her managing if she rejects. Since everything started, I have only seen remorse from her. But I believe it is regret she can no longer sustain with her madness. She did remark, I am sorry I ruined everything, but I doubt that is sincere. She scarcely turned to look at me during my visit. Seeing her in this state hurt. She is an adult, hence even though I intended to shield her, I have to shield my children from her risky and erratic actions. Other than that, she showed no interest in the hearing. She did not inquire about the state of her friend who had been gravely hurt. She sat there, apparently annoyed, basically inert. This still doesn't make sense. She is now devoid of everything. For what reason has she wrecked her family and caused great suffering for so many people? A buzz and some haphazard sex. Until she has been clean for a lengthy period, I am going totally NC. Simply said, I cannot handle all this insanity. Update 5, many PM'd me to get an update. I simply lacked the energy yesterday when I was supposed to post one. I feel quite gloomy and rather exhausted. I barely sleep, and when I do, dreams haunt me. The good news is the youngsters are improving. My dad is a champion. I have no idea what I would do without him. Just me, him and the children. We visited his cabin to ski a little this weekend. It was fantastic. I hardly contacted my ex at all. I did speak with one of her harpist friends, the one in critical state. She woke up, but she looked absolutely horrible. Her nurse told me she was depressed since no one had cared to check up on her while she was there. They had just turned away from her, after getting in touch with her relatives. I asked the nurse if I may speak with her. I am concerned the person who beat up my ex will come for me and the kids, so she consented. Although I know I shouldn't, I thought I should find out from her what had transpired since my wife started working with them. She asked me first whether I wanted a BJ for $20, so that was not very embarrassing. Instead, I gave her $50 in return for information. Every one of the Harp pals is a serious drug user, addicts. Against the wishes of the other two, Henrietta brought my wife into their group and persuaded her to do drugs and party with them. To pay for narcotics, they sold sex favors. The main one is Henrietta. Though as she said, it's all bullshit to protect our own imagined egos. They all advocate this strong feminist, my own body approach. We truly prostitute themselves for money to get drugs. First, my wife bought into them, and it didn't take long before she developed an addiction like the rest of them. She started selling sex to pay for drugs once she became hooked. Hearing that the person you loved more than anything to feed her drug addiction is not easy. She desired money, hence it makes sense. From what she tells me, meth is mostly involved now. She has stolen, cheated, mistreated and lied to everyone in her life, hence nobody visits her. Nobody wants anything to do with her. She told me, devoid of even a blink, how depressed she felt about surviving. She looks like walking death without cosmetics and hopes nothing for the future. It hurt. Listening to her broke me. I shed a lot of tears for my wife's benefit. I'm not excusing her. She lost since she chose to play with this wank. She shall now pay the cost. I'll go back to her later. She also told me everything about the guys that beat up my ex-wife. Death threats, resistance to arrest, drug possession, prostitution, drug trafficking, child abuse and neglect, DUI, property damage, and auto theft have been charges Henrietta has been assigned. She will most likely go away for a while, at least, I hope she will, as her flight risk has been denied bail. I want to thank all of you who contacted with expertise handling addicts before I begin. Many cautioned me that given the walls closing in, my ex might attempt suicide now. She tried to purposefully OD, and you were right. I had before spoken with her father the great possibility she would have to attempt something. We agreed to keep a close eye on her. Fortunately, she still does not know I have live data from her cell. Saturday we were in the cabin, and I received a message from her that seemed to be a suicide note. She told me about the addiction, the prostitution, how she let everyone down, that she would do the only thing she could, etc. I got her whereabouts as I had the mobile monitor and quickly phoned her dad. Her father raced outside and discovered her comatose on a park seat. She was driven straight to the hospital and pumped. She was rather hypothermic as well. Imagine what would have occurred had he come just a bit later. I shudder. For now they have her on methadone. She can no longer refuse treatment as her father has effectively been declared her guardian. She will undergo a sedated detox. Her father had her forcefully taken to a rehab clinic. I'm not sure when, but most likely this week her father was hired for her abandonment of her children, not for her OD. Giving up your children seems to show that you are not logical, but trying to stop is acceptable. Still, she will receive therapy as fortunately I have not had an opportunity to terminate her life insurance yet. Long as my ex isn't told that I am, I have volunteered my ex-FIL to assist with the finances. The individuals who beat up my wife made me rather afraid as they might come after the children and me. Recall, Henry showed in court conversation logs he thought my wife had sent him. Henry agreed to rectify this once I spoke with him since he gained from the revelation. I'm not sure whether I mentioned this, but Henry is an enraged manly meat mountain. He grew up on a farm lugging goods since he was a small child, hence he resembles Hulk and could split the typical guy in half. Let's just say he is somewhat terrifying if you do not know him. He bends down walking through doors, has a crew cut, and some facial scars. Actually, he is incredibly soft, patient, and compassionate. Though for him it's a last choice, I don't doubt he will use force if he thinks it necessary. Still, he visited the boys' residence, a true way whole by the means. He grabbed the two guys by the neck and informed them that Henrietta had given him the chat logs and that since they hurt someone they knew, they had a choice to make: go with him to the police and confess everything related with the assault, or face him right there and expect some very severe permanent injuries if they chose option 2. He let them know he was rather optimistic they would go with option 2. Apparently, they lacked quick enough access to the police. Obviously, I am not bothered about them anymore. I will shortly be moving after finding a new apartment. Bob once more came through. I am somewhat depressed overall. This is weighty on my spirit. My friends and family keep me going. I know I have to be strong for the kids. For my ex, my heart hurts despite all. Although I still love her, I know we cannot get back together, hence I am not regretful of marrying her. She is not the person she once was, and there is simply too much hurt between us. Before all the suffering lately, we led quite a wonderful life. Without her, I would not have my children. I would not give them up for anything either. I know it will hurt for a long time. Hopefully, I am strong enough to go through it. Oddly enough, knowledge of my wife's addiction has helped my children cope. Talking about mom's illness is much simpler, and she will take a long time to recover. She still loves them, etc., etc. Right now I am exhausted and depressed. We are going to watch Madagascar 3. Henry is here with his kids. I am working to create as many wonderful fresh memories as I can. Henry is doing the same. His and my children now seem to be doing far better. We'll be good, I believe. Appreciate all of your help, everyone. Here, I believe, my last post will be this. Last update. My ex died in a rehabilitation center. She must have taken the medications while there somehow, but nobody really knows how she acquired them. One physician conjectures that she ingested anything like a bag and that it exploded. I will not be answering comments or posting going forward. I appreciate all of the useful comments and ideas you supplied.